We are continuing our extended coverage of Nicole in the north, and as of 6 o'clock this evening, the tropical cyclone winds have increased to 70 miles per hour with higher gusts rather, and it has strengthened, and it is no longer a tropical storm. It has strengthened to a Category 1 hurricane that is now impacting Grand Bahama. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Ramiko Knowles, and I'm joined by co-host Ricardo Lightbourne, and the island administrator Joseph Ferguson is also joining us live in studio tonight. And as we mentioned just a few minutes ago, it is no longer a tropical storm. It is now a hurricane, and that's what we've been talking about throughout our broadcast this evening and earlier today, that this storm is strengthening and will strengthen as it gets over Grand Bahama, and that is what's happening now, Rick, as we begin to feel the impacts of Hurricane Nicole.
Right. The whole impetus from yesterday was the fact that the potential for this storm was to actually generate into a hurricane, because remember, we're borderline 70, getting to 74, and then moving forward. And then earlier today, around midday, once the storm did touch Abaco, we know good and well that once it got in the back part of Grand Bahama on the northern shore, where there's some warm water between us and Grand Key, some things are going to happen. So it's just a matter of time. And like earlier today, when in chatting again with Peter and those, and you said to Siobhan, this thing is going to move quickly, and that's exactly what has happened. What is now happening is that our neighbors to the west of us are now panicking, because they have now got to endure a hurricane, whereas we endured a tropical storm for much of the day. But the good thing is that so far, many of the residents have adhered to all of the warnings, all of the precautions, and so they have done what they needed to, and also the various administrators on the islands, and also the protectorate body, that's the police, defense force, and other agencies have done their part to make sure that residents stay within the framework of what was set aside with all the planning that was done before we got into the season. So far, we are now dealing with a hurricane. For us, it was a tropical storm, borderline hurricane, but so far we've fared very well.
Right, and you mentioned, residents basically adhering to all of the officials' messages earlier today about staying inside, which would have meant you were out there earlier today or even tonight, coming here tonight. What was the weather conditions like outside?
Earlier today, it was interesting because you only had rain bands moving around, and so folks were limited to moving places. Then the good part about all of this was that much of the businesses were closed. So there was really no reason for you to be out and about. And I think that's one of the key part that what transacted earlier today. Then after you completed your broadcast this afternoon, that's when the doors of rain opened up, and we saw the gust of well over 70-odd miles an hour. That was a deterrent to a lot of individuals who were hesitating about moving around. And then one thing that happened is that we are into the Eastern Standard quadrant of time. So it got dark early. And so by 5:15 being dark, nobody wants to be out of there. And those kinds of clouds of rain and wind that we had was a deterrent. And so folks found their way to find somewhere to stay there, because you did not want to be on the road. Even tonight, coming over, it was a very quiet ride. No one's on the road, not even the frogs on the road tonight.
Even they want to find some shelter tonight. Joseph Ferguson, you're also joining us live in the studio. Welcome, and thank you for joining us here tonight. I know it has been a busy a few hours for you, and even a busy few weeks leading up to this point and leading up to this hurricane now in Grand Bahama. Just kind of give us an idea of what preparations you guys are making now that we're dealing with the hurricane.
Good evening, Rico. Good evening, Ricardo. Good evening, Grand Bahama, and good evening, Bahamas. First of all, I'll give you an update on what has transpired earlier today.
Okay.
Update on Tropical Storm Nicole. At 12 p.m., reports of power outages in the 8 Mile Rock and western areas of the island. Grand Bahama Power has advised that they will not go out to conduct repairs until the all clear is given. The EOC press briefing was at 12:30 p.m. this afternoon. The Department of Meteorology provided a timeline when the system is expected to be over Grand Bahama. At 1 p.m., McLeanstown, East Grand Bahama, 5 p.m., City of Freeport, and 6 p.m., west end of the island. System is expected to decrease by 9 p.m. 9 shelters in the City of Freeport are open with no changes in capacity. 1 shelter is open in the western end of the island and 17 evacuees. Residents who live in low-lying areas or on the coastline are encouraged to move inland before the weather conditions change. And those who are in secure dwelling are asked to remain indoors. In the event of emergency, residents can contact the following emergency numbers: 351-4902. I repeat again, 351-4902, 351-4903, and 351-4904. At the 3 p.m. EOC briefing, ACP Cunningham, Royal Bahamas Police Force, Northern Bahamas, reported Fishing Hole Road Bridge officially closed. Repeat again, the Fishing Hole Road Bridge is officially closed. And Queens Cove area is impassable due to flooding. There's also one down power pole in Robertstown, East Grand Bahama, and some debris in the area as well. We would probably conduct a post-mortem on Friday morning rather, as soon as all clear is given. And we would like to all our EFS personnel to be in attendance at this post-mortem. But all in all, everything went well. I'm pleased with all of my workers and the Minister of Grand Bahama, the Permanent Secretary. I'm very pleased with all their efforts. I think we all did a wonderful job trying to secure Grand Bahama and trying to secure lives and property.
We were talking earlier about residents adhering to all of the advice given from officials. You being in the EOC, can you tell us were there any calls coming through of emergencies happening throughout the day?
No, there were very little emergency calls. Okay. Very, very little. I was very pleased with the evacuations of Sweetens Key and East Grand Bahama. They really adhered to our warnings.
And so that's good news. Now, a number of officials assembling at the Emergency Command Center today and apprising the public of the measures taken to maintain safety throughout the duration of Tropical Storm Nicole. Officials also taking the time to reinforce the message that residents should stay put as the storm inches closer, bringing with it safety hazards. Raven Davis was there and filed this report.
Storm Nicole continues its trek along the northwest Bahama Islands. Keeping the public informed remains a key focus of local authorities. Minister for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Ginger Moxie, NEMA personnel, representatives of the various government agencies, and a cadre of other officials presenting updates and collaborating on plans to ensure impacts from the storm are minimal.
We need you to stay safe. We know that there's so many other reports out there, but again, we want you to listen to the update from the EOC and the relevant agencies so that you're apprised of what's going on.
The storm making landfall on Elbow Key earlier today, and according to Northern Bahamas Chief Meteorologist Siobhan Moxie Bonamy, is continuing to move to the west at about 12 miles per hour.
Islands of Abaco and Grand Bahama will continue to feel sustained tropical storm force winds relating to Tropical Storm Nicole. However, Nicole is still forecast to become a hurricane as it approaches the eastern side of Grand Bahama later this afternoon.
She adds that from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., it is likely that Grand Bahama will feel the impacts.
We do anticipate Nicole to be over McLeanstown around 3 to 4 o'clock this afternoon, and just about 6 o'clock this evening it should be almost directly over the city of Freeport or slightly north of the city, and by 8 o'clock this evening it should be near West End on its way toward Florida.
With the storm already packing gusty winds, possible storm surge and heavy rainfall, the high tide cycle is likely to exacerbate the issue of coastal flooding. Senator the Honorable Kirkland Russell making an impassioned plea to residents in low-lying and other vulnerable areas to stay safe.
Category 1 storm hitting us directly, we can have serious surge and water effect on the coastline. So we are encouraging all residents in those vulnerable communities to evacuate.
For the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, I'm Raven Davis.
Well, according to Met officials, West Grand Bahama is currently under the gun of Hurricane Nicole, and joining us live tonight via phone is West Grand Bahama Administrator Ricardo Ferguson. Thank you so much for joining us. He was on earlier. We also understand that we have officials from the Grand Bahama Power Company on the line. Cleopatra Russell, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good night, Rico.
Good night, and thank you so much for joining us again. I know it's been a busy day for you and a busy few days, but we understand that there's been some power outages throughout the island here today. Just kind of give us an update on what's happening right now.
So presently, we have about less than 5% of our customers being impacted with an outage. We were able to restore the outage that we experienced in West Grand Bahama sometime today. So West Grand Bahama would have experienced an outage about 1 o'clock this morning. The weather was substantial, so we were not able to dispatch crews. As soon as we received an opening, we were able to send a skeleton crew down, and they were able to get that outage as well as an outage in the midshipman area and the ridge area restored. Once we would have seen the winds pick up and the brunt of the storm come upon us, we would have stood our crews down. So our crews are presently not addressing any outages. They will begin to address those outages once the storm has passed, and NEMA would have given us the all clear we anticipate sometime tomorrow. The system has held fairly well. As expected, we did have the isolated outages as a result of there being some downed trees. We had about 2, I think, poles and wires that might have been reported down, and they're just being debris and the wind that customers experience. Our team is still at our energy plant, and they continue to safely generate, transmit, and distribute power. We remind our customers to stay indoors, report any down poles or power lines, and just to be patient along with the process. As soon as NEMA gives us the all clear, we will begin restoring any of our impacted customers. But as of present, again, less than about 5% of customers are presently experiencing outages.
Persons who are without power, you won't be able to address those issues until the all clear is given.
No, we are unable to address those issues. We know that there's a calm right now, but we know that presently the eye of the storm is passing over us and it's continuing to head west. So we want just to remind customers that presently under these conditions, it is not safe for us to dispatch our crews. But as soon as we receive the all clear, we will go ahead and we will have our crews will dispatch to our command center, and we will begin with a plan. And just to help customers to understand a little bit about how we restore. In this case, we will obviously pay attention to critical services first. We want to make sure that we're able to open our ports. We want to make sure that the hospital, we want to make sure that the police and that the water is able to be generated. And so those will be our key priority areas if they are impacted. And once we are done with those key services or critical services, then we will move on to residential areas. We know that there are a number of pocket outages in Call Road presently that we're aware of, and we just ask our customers to continue to report those to us on social media, as well as to our 24-hour call center at 352-8411. And once our crews are in, we will begin putting our plan together to get everyone safely restored as quickly as possible.
And that is good news. Now, less than 5% of persons and you mentioned Coral Road just now. Are any other areas at this point that you're aware of?
So all of the areas that we are aware of are small pocket areas. We don't have any large areas out. We know that there are some issues in the Hawksville area, and I think it's Bimini. We know that there's a few issues off of Midshipman. We know that we have a couple of pocket outages in West End as well right now. And a lot of these outages we suspect are as a result of the wind and rain and debris possibly being in the line. There has been no major infrastructural failures on our end. And so these are standard outages that we would anticipate whenever you have winds in excess of 60 miles an hour.
Awesome. Well, that's not necessarily bad news. You know, we had her on yesterday, Rick, and that was the big concern, the power outages. And she mentioned that, you know, they will do what they can for their system to hold up. And it seems as though it's doing just that with less than 5%.
It did very well. And I want to congratulate the Grand Bahama Power Company because for the most part, the majority of the residents in Grand Bahama and also business houses, those who were checking on their company with security issues and all that, had no problems. And I think that says, well, again, again. I know there are some pockets because we did see some trees and some other debris that has been blowing around the place, and that is to happen. But for the most part, folks have done very well as far as GB Power, and I don't blame her. You don't go out there. There are some gusts that's going on, especially now that it's dark and very difficult to work with. You don't want to put anybody at risk. And she mentioned that yesterday. Safety of the staff is essential, and that's what they're looking at. Sunrise early tomorrow. They'll go out and do the assessment, check on the pockets, and everybody know exactly what's going on, and then you will go back to getting it done, because that's when the administrator and the team at NEMA will have to also go out and do their assessment and determine exactly the feasibility of the island and whether or not we're able to move around, whatever. But the good part is most of the island is now quiet. There's no activity at all. Maybe one or two of the settlements. I know my folks in Pinder's Point, they don't never stay home, but the bottom line is they're now quiet and they're okay, and it should be fun.
Absolutely. And Cleo, just before you leave, just continue to give those numbers. I see a lot of several persons on the live saying that their power just went out, and we want to make sure that those are reported and so they can be addressed. But so one more time, can you give those numbers for persons to call?
So if you're experiencing an outage, we ask that the customers will give us a call at 352-8411. They can also inbox us on Facebook so that we can have those outages logged as well. Our Facebook page is Grand Bahama Power Company. And once customers go ahead and reach out to us via cell phone, it's toll-free, 242-300-4826. They can give us a call. They can send us a message on Facebook so that we can go ahead and ensure that we have those logged.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us here tonight, and you continue to be safe. Cleopatra Russell, that is the Director of Communications of the Grand Bahama Power Company. Joining us live in studio now is Chief Meteorologist Orson Nixon. And, you know, everybody is wondering, where is this storm exactly and how much longer do we have? Okay, right now, Nicole is moving across Dover Sound. It made landfall around Freetown somewhere around 6 p.m. today. And at that point, Nicole upgraded to a hurricane. But with 75 miles per hour winds, is mostly concentrated on the northern side of Nicole. The northern side, that's the airport, and all of those areas that are concerns for Grand Bahamians. So what are the weather conditions that we're going to be experiencing for the next several hours? Like I said, the stronger winds are basically on the northern side of the system, and Nicole is going to start to take a more northerly turn. So it's going to go more west-northwest and then northwest turn later. With that kind of configuration going on, we're talking about, you know, waves and swells starting to pile up on the northern side of the coast. Now, right now, as we speak, it's high tide, and you know, this is what the Americans like to call king tide. Right. So you're gonna get some additional about 4 feet on top of the normal tide going in there. So coastal inundation on the northern coast. So especially persons, like I was saying, you don't want to go out, like as parents, you know, don't go on those coastal roads.
No, stay away from there, because you did mention that the north side of this storm has increased in size. What is the width of this bad girl?
Okay, we're talking about tropical storm force winds extending out to almost 300 miles from the center. So it's pretty big, right? So you're talking about it's moving over Dover Sound, going into the waters just north of Freeport. And Abaco is still feeling some tropical storm force winds going on. And they will continue to experience this until the next about hour before it starts to abate.
Okay, the speed of the storm at this point, it was 8, 10, 12. What is it doing now?
Okay, right now, for most of the day, Nicole has been going between 12 and 13 miles per hour. Right now, it's moving at 13 miles per hour.
to the west. And as I indicated, it's going to start taking a little more northerly component as the night progresses. And then as it starts to take that northerly turn, it's going to speed up a little.
Okay. We don't expect any surprises. You know, a lot of persons were saying once these storms get in our waters around this area, you know, they do, you know, miraculous things. We don't expect any surprises.
Not at this point.
Okay.
Actually, when the cold gets just north of West End, there may be some downgrade. We don't expect much significant increase in strength. Basically maintaining the 75 miles per hour until it gets about West End, and then downgrades a little, and then picks back up when it moves into Florida.
Okay. As for the islands of Berry Island, Abaco, and Bimini, what are they experiencing anything at this point, or are they pretty much in the clear?
Berry Islands should start seeing abatement of tropical storm force winds. They will still get some gusts towards tropical storm force. Up until about midnight, Bimini should start to see some decrease in the winds as well.
Okay, and as for Abaco?
Okay, Abaco, like I indicated, in the next hour, by 9 or shortly after, they should start seeing less tropical storm force winds and just tropical storm force gusts.
Okay. Are we to assume now that this storm has got unique characteristics? Much of the wind scenario is at the front of it. Is there much in the back of it? Because right now we have a counterclockwise wind, getting the wind coming out of the north, and then all of a sudden it's going to go in the back door off of West End, and then the wind swings from the other side. Is there anything in the back that we need to be concerned about?
Yeah, well, with the winds coming from a southerly component, once the system moves off, you're going to start getting ocean swells start to move in on the southern coast, right? Don't expect too much of in terms of height. Looking at between 1 to 2 feet inundation going in. The problem will be mostly rip currents, and definitely nobody should be in the water at all. So once you stay out of the water, you should be good.
Okay, because I know a lot of folks are concerned with that, and the fact that the storm will venture out in the water, will come the other side. I know a number of the boats were taken off the jetties like Abaco and those other places, and Buckeye, I should say, and taken out to sea. Some are anchored off in the deep, and so that ran through my mind. Now this storm is going to swing around. How safe are they out there that's anchored on our southern shores?
Yeah. Once they, most of the mariners that we speak to, once they have, a lot of them are seasoned mariners, so they know exactly how to actually secure their vessels in situations like this.
Okay,
that's good news. I know we have Ricardo Ferguson, the administrator for West Grand Bahama, on the line. Ricardo, are you there? And if you are, just give us an update of what's happening in West Grand Bahama at this moment. I know you probably would have perused the area earlier today. What's happening in West Grand Bahama?
So right now we're having a lot of heavy winds, not so much rain going on right now. And so the power's out. The power's out now. And so it's all quiet down here. Everybody's in and just awaiting it. Our shelters are presently housing about 33 persons between the three of them. And so it's just a wait-and-see situation right now, because what wasn't done earlier today just won't get done.
Especially now that the power is out, and with the storm impacting Grand Bahama at the moment. We noticed that earlier today some pictures were going around about some flooding. Has that been a concern in the area since today?
No, well, West End had their issues. The area, as we were going down, the area between the Bull, Boodle area, the area between West End and Bahama Beach. As you're going up, there was some water. The water was just about to breach the onto the road, but West End had quite a bit of water. So that front road had to be shut down, and persons were being asked to use the back road, the entrance to West End.
And for those areas that are experiencing those pockets of floods, how long does it actually take for the water to subside and for the area to become passable?
Well, that area tends to drain quickly. West End, I think their situation, once the tide really relies on the tide and wind. And so I think by tomorrow, I can probably say, but once it dies down, anywhere between probably at 10 o'clock, persons may be able to pass. Now, I know the bridge, the area by the bridge, what they call the Fisherman's Hole, right. That area was quite flooded on the side heading to Freeport. On the side that takes you to West End by that was dry, but heading towards Freeport, you couldn't get there. You had about 3 feet of water in that area.
And so at this moment, we heard reports earlier that the Fishing Hole Bridge is closed. And West End is one way in and one way out.
One way in.
So anyone down there's pretty much in for the night.
Yeah, there's no going anywhere out of 8 Mile Rock tonight. So everybody just have to remain and wait until this thing passes and the water starts to recede.
Okay. Any words of advice for residents in West Grand Bahama at this moment that they're listening to?
It's the same thing we've been telling them all day. Please stay indoors and wait until the all clear is given for persons to be moving about. I know my people, I know Bahamians, we are curious the minute the wind dies. Everybody wants to go on the streets.
As the residents in West Grand Bahama as we continue to ride out the storm. Now, in speaking on the Fishing Hole Road, flooding from much earlier today, it is the causeway that links West Grand Bahama to the rest of the island. Now, shortly after 4 p.m., an official notice was given that the road was closed. Our Aja Kwan joins us live as she was on the beat all day. Aja, what can you tell us?
Well, guys, we're here at the Fishing Hole Road where the Minister for Grand Bahama and the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Theophilus Cunningham, has now closed the road where the conditions are deteriorating by the minute. The rain is down, the winds have picked up, and they are telling everyone to stay far away from the bridge. Now, as you can see, police officials are here, and they are warning persons to not enter the bridge. Again, do not enter the bridge. As Nicole makes her way through Grand Bahama, her winds have picked up to 75 miles per hour, causing major flooding to the Fishing Hole Road Bridge. The Minister for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Ginger Moxie, sending out a clear warning for residents to stay far from the bridge.
We want to remind the public to not attempt to cross the Fishing Hole Road as it is flooded. I was out there earlier today and it was already treacherous. The most important thing right now is your safety. So please, please follow the advice given and stay away from the Fishing Hole Road.
Assistant Commissioner of Police Theophilus Cunningham also sending out the same caution, noting that the Royal Bahamas Police Force have sent out multiple warnings.
The Fishing Hole Bridge is cleared to the public. These warnings has been sent out by the press and our various community chat groups.
Now the island's top cop noting they will maintain their patrols until the weather starts to decline to ensure the safety of his officers.
Once the clear is given, we will resume patrols to make an assist with assessments and traffic control throughout the district.
Now, the team had to make their way back to the station as the conditions out there are getting worse. And let me tell you, I don't envy Aja at this moment. Looking out there, I remember being out there.
Aja wearing your shoes. Aja got instant training of your shoes, man. No way, but that you gave her your boots. And she hung in there.
Oh, man.
She hung in there.
It's certainly an awesome job that all of the reporters here are doing, just keeping people up to date of what's happening with the storm. It gave me chills just now watching that with the fishing hole bridge and the water just coming over that bridge. And I'm sure you would remember 2019, what that was like.
I'll tell you, it was unique. But what really hits me about this particular storm is the fact that it's a quick moving storm, and also it is more so, as it was with Dorian, confined more so to the north side. And again, one of the key things is that, you know, we put a lot of effort into building the causeway to get across. But the effort has not been put into raising the land that now attaches to that causeway. Because as soon as you leave the causeway moving towards the corner, that's flat land. That's creek. And so the water easily comes across into the creek area. And then when you go across the other side of the bridge, past Bahama Rock and area back in there, that's flat land again. And then you got the creek on the other side. So with the wind blowing out of the north, and that's all coming across. So you still have issues about the connection of having West Grand Bahama connected to Central Grand Bahama. It's not going to be done until we raise the road and take it up. Like you said, it was 3 feet of water, so we know now that in order to keep that in place, we have to raise the road. You know, the thoroughfare to get us across is one thing. Raising the road now to get across is going to be another. And this was a good test now for a lot of the engineers.
Absolutely.
And I want Tony Does and the Ministry of Works, the so-called engineers, to now realistically put a plan in place now to raise that fishing hole road to some extent, somehow. Raise that road, because as you go Queens Highway all the way up, you're still looking at flat land. And you can sit there and look straight across the creek and look right out to the water. And it's right there.
And this was happening before the storm became a hurricane, and before we even got to Category 1 today. And so just imagine if you know, we deal with a Category 2 or 3 or possibly 4
Then
again.
we would have had another issue with having to deal with Region Center and having the water come across the back of town again, as it has been in countless episodes that we've endured. We would have seen the water cross over into the Hawksbill community, which we don't want to see. And so there are many variables. And then too, you also put Chesapeake and the area up in the northern side also at risk because the water comes across from the creek as well. That's just one of the areas. Now the question is going to be, how did the airport fare, from the event that we had today in terms of water coming across and how that's going to be. And so again, that assessment as to how they're going to be able to move and see what's on the runway, because a lot of debris came across with Dorian. This one has also brought a lot of debris across as well. So that's another possible thought process for our engineers and other administrative folks to look at.
Absolutely. We heard a lot of talks about saturation, the ground being saturated from previous storms, and having dealt with Ian just a few weeks ago. Does that factor in when we now deal with current storms in terms of Nicole and how fast these pockets of areas begin to flood?
Okay. As you get the ground starts to saturate, and those waters take a little while, although it's a lot faster than other type of sediment rock. We are basically limestone, so it filter down a little faster. But if you have continuous rain coming, the water is not going to go away as fast. So when you have a hurricane or a tropical storm and it's actually a really wet system, this is going to pile up a lot of water on top of the land because there's not enough time for the water to actually soak away, right? And if you're going to add in near the coast, inundation with surges and ocean swells, right? This is going to actually compound the situation.
Okay, and we see it and sometimes when we have light showers, we have pockets of floods throughout certain areas in Grand Bahama, and so that's always a concern, just the saturation of the island and the Bahamasair.
Well, what has happened over the last couple of months is we've seen where the Grand Bahama Port Authority has also taken initiative to, one, install new wells that we've seen across the island. Two, they've blown the existing wells, because we know very well in the front of the Grand Bahama Port Authority building and around the areas of CIBC Bank and GB Power, you need a Boston Whaler to get through there. Okay, you know, and it was really a disaster. So they've had to blow all those wells and make it happen. Even here at the Harold Gregory building, the wells here were blown, and so now there isn't that standing water, and it's a situation. What has happened over the years is that we've learned a lesson that we need to make sure that the wells on the island are blown and cleared so that we can help this water to dissipate. Now, what's going to help us is the fact that folks are not going to be out and about, and so come tomorrow, we will in Stern see a lot of water disappear. All right, there will be one or two pockets because of the so-called indentation in the roads and of wear and tear in that regards. But for the most part, we're not going to be as bad as they are in New Providence with them potholes and other things that they have to deal with and water all over the place. But at least our roadways are a little bit more maintained compared to some of the other places, and the water will disappear, and I think that's going to help us out quite a bit. But I know for a fact, and coming here today and moving around earlier, that there are some pockets, but the water's not standing on the ground long. Like he said, it's dissipating through the limestone very, very quickly, and that helps a lot.
Absolutely. Orson, just before you go once again, let's just kind of give us an update on what the storm is doing at this exact moment.
Well, at this exact moment, Nicole is actually across Dover Sound, and is actually moving in the waters just north of Grand Bahama, just north of the city of Freeport, and is going to start heading towards west end, passing to the north, and then on to Florida. Right. One other thing I wanted to mention, there was a continuous issue in the past with storms when the department issues are all clear, and the residents believe that it's a message to them, but actually it's a message to the first responders for them to go out and actually assess what is going on and actually try to make some repairs for the residents, then decide to go out. But that is not for the residents initially, but for the first responders.
That is an important to mention. Now that you say it, a lot of persons are waiting for the all clear and hopefully to go outside and go about business as usual. But now you're letting us know that the all clear is not necessarily for residents, but for those essential persons who need to go out and make those checks to make sure that the streets are safe and cleared of debris. The Grand Bahama Power Company is out there, police officials out there, persons out there making sure that it is safe for residents to come out.
Yes. Definitely.
That's very important. And also one other point I need you to go after. Please, and I say very please, make sure you have a cell phone on and you call down at Nassau and let them know that you guys in Freeport called all clear here. Okay? Please. I'm saying that because of experience in the past, they've had the audacity to call an all clear for us here, and we're still in an issue. Whereas in my personal view, you have a qualified group of meteorologists here that are able to make that decision. You guys are in the LOC. You are doing what you're supposed to do, and thereby you can make sure that that call comes and comes accordingly. I just want to make sure that we all are on one page. Okay.
On accord.
One page.
Absolutely. So we want to make sure that happens. I'm being told now that the Grand Bahama Utility Company also issuing a statement on the loss of power. Filcher Grant Adelaide joins us live on the phone, and she's letting us know how the impact of this storm is impacting their water wells. Filcher, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good night. How's everyone? Hope everyone is staying safe during this event.
Go ahead.
So this has been a very eventful day for us. So we've had some power loss issues at some of our plants. we've been able to supplement that with backup generation. We have been in contact with Jared Moss, Cleopatra Russell, and the team at GBPC, making sure that we're staying in tune on what we're seeing with our well fields. We've seen some down power lines, some trees, vegetation impacting, which is expected because of the weather. But we issued a statement very recently about having to take our reverse osmosis system offline. It is very sensitive, as we told you, the $5 million investment, and it's been taking quite some hits. Now, our teams have been at the well field station there. Our teams actually are still there working. But when we had to make a decision to safeguard the equipment, we decided to take the reverse osmosis offline. Again, it's a very expensive investment, and we want to be assured that once the storm event is past, that equipment is operational and able to produce water to the city. So some customers will see lower than normal pressures, and some might experience an interruption until it's safe for us to put the reverse osmosis system back online. We want to note that the other plants still are operational and fully functioning and producing water.
Okay, with the reverse osmosis system being offline, you're saying that customers will experience low, well, they won't have full pressure?
Some might not have full pressure. Some might see a full interruption depending on where they are in the distribution line. So the customers that are fed from the W6 area, they will get the most of the impact on us taking the reverse osmosis system offline.
Okay, is there a timeline for how long that is going to be? So for those who are listening?
So it depends on what this weather is doing, when we can safely go back and try to restore the reverse osmosis system. If we don't get the all clear to get back, and I think I heard you guys discussing that the all clear for emergency personnel only, so we're paying attention to when it's safe for us to do that. I actually got a call now from the power company calling to arrange that. I will have to take that after I'm done with this interview. Worst case scenario, though, we will be out at first light to do our assessments and start making the repairs to our system.
Okay, were there any other concerns or issues with the wells as it relates to the storm?
Not besides the ones that I told you, with us being impacted by mostly the wind, with down power lines and vegetation on our lines. That's the most impact that we've seen that have been taking it out. Again, we've had some power issues early on, but we've been running our backup generator, and they've been performing really well. But we had to make a decision to safeguard the reverse osmosis system and take it offline until it's safe for us to put that back on.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us here tonight, and we look forward. I guess we'll check back in with you in the morning to get an update on where you are in that process.
Yes, and if there's anything that happens further on this evening, we will please stay tuned to our social media pages and WhatsApp groups. We will be sharing that information if anything changes during the night. We will keep you very apprised of what's happening with the water situation.
All right, thank you so much. That is the Chief Operating Officer of the Grand Bahama the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Filcher Grant Adderley. One of the persons who's been very busy throughout the course of this.
And I listened to her just now, and then also listened to the meteorologists. They were in the middle of a fight out there on that north side, because where they are at Wellfield 6, right up the road from the University of the Bahamas, and that's where the storm is in the back there, in the back over Dover Sound. They were getting clobbered all day today. And so there was a lot of strain on that equipment up there with the power lines and everything in the back there. And now that it's moving down, that may be a little bit of a relief somewhat in doing so. But as soon as I heard it was in the back there, another episode and a true test to see what's going on. And so that's what's happened over there as well. So come tomorrow morning when the GB Power entities are around and the various surveyors can determine how best to move, then we can see them getting up. But Filcher, feel good that all your pumps in Bahama are still working, man. Everything in Bahama working. Don't worry about that. GB Power got Bahama up and running. We got water.
I'm going to see residents in Bahama commenting in just a moment. But Orson, I know you have a busy night ahead of you, so I want to thank you so much for joining us. But just for clarity purposes, how much longer do we have in Grand Bahama? And the persons are wanting to know how much longer will it be for us to be experiencing some impacts? So just kind of give us an idea of how much longer it is.
Okay, in terms of winds coming from Nicole, Grand Bahama can start to see some improvement as the night progresses, especially after looking at around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You can see some improvement in terms of wind. We're still going to have some long-term effect in terms of the ocean. You're looking at swells generated from the cold, and also still some waves, ocean waves coming in at least a couple of days after the cold has actually left the area.
You say a couple days after the cold has left the area?
Yeah, you still get some swells coming in.
Okay, is that going to be a concern for the low-lying areas of?
Mainly for mariners. That would be a big concern for them.
Okay. We also understand that we have Dorothea Gomez, the Chief Welfare Officer, joining us live now on the phone. She is the Acting Assistant Director with the Social Services Department. Dorothea, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just kind of give us an update of what's been happening at the shelters all day today. We do know that quite a bit of residents from East Grand Bahama and all throughout the island have checked into those shelters, and so kind of give us an update on how that's been going today.
We have, over the past 2 days, we've had 118 persons checked into our shelters. 40 of them checked into the Maurice Moore shelter, which is the shelter that was used for residents of East End. So the persons that were evacuated from the Sweeting Ski on the eastern end of the island, they were sheltered at Maurice Moore. Christ the King, our special needs shelter, we had 12 shelteries there. At First Baptist, we have 9 shelteries, with about 8 of those coming in today. At Central Church of God, we have 8 shelteries there. Outreach Temple, there's 1. Revelation Apostolic Faith, there are 7 shelteries. Shiloh Baptist Church, there are also 7 shelteries. In the Western District, Bethel Deliverance, we have 18 shelteries. At the Church of God of Prophecy in Seagrape, there are 15 shelteries. And Church of God in Pinedale, 1 sheltery. The shelteries are comfortable, they're resting comfortably and enjoying the weather.
Shelter is enjoying the weather. Well,
yes, they're enjoying the weather. They moved away from their homes, so they're now in more comfortable surroundings. Because some homes were could not ride out the storm there. So they're being cared for and looked after by able-bodied shelter managers. I must say they're from the staff. The majority of them are from the staff of the Department of Social Services. And of course, the Red Cross also assists us in managing our shelters.
And we're talking about the all clear being given. Those persons will remain in the shelter until after, until it is safe for residents to come out on the street, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They will remain there until it is safe.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for checking in with us, and we will certainly check back in with you in the morning. We do have a list of those shelteries here. Our news team also visiting one of the shelters earlier today, Maurice Moore, where 40 shelteries are, and Ajaquant has more on this. We're going to go to that report.
Island. They are also expressing that everything so far has been good and that residents are comfortable. Morrismore Primary is one of 15 shelters on Grand Bahama. Shelter Manager Elvita Smith says as they prepare for the brunt of Hurricane Nicole, they're faring well.
We have no issues, no compromised areas as yet. The breeze is picking up, but other than that, no issues. Basically, everybody is comfortable. They seems to be getting along well with each other. And, based on COVID, because, we just came out of COVID, so most of them are in separate areas. We have the family separated. So it isn't as if there is any conflict with them. They're getting along well.
Persons would have begun sheltering on Tuesday, and Nashanda Tate says they have had some good Samaritans come and donate food.
On yesterday, we would have received dinners for our shelterees donated by Urban Renewal. On today, we would have received donations from Senator James Turner. He would have donated some meat and foods that was prepared and cooked by our senior citizen and shelteree, Mistress Selma Davis, who did a splendid job. We've been receiving some donations of food.
And now there are currently 40 persons at the shelter.
2 Defense Force officers, 2 nurses, and 3 social workers.
For anyone wanting to reach this shelter, you are asked to contact the Emergency Operating Center at 351-490224. For the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, I'm Azra Quant.
You are watching extended coverage of Nicole, covering Nicole here in the north. We're going to take a quick break. We invite you to stay tuned. We'll be right back right after this.
We just got the new fiber internet speed bump. Now my internet's so fast I can watch 2 4K movies, play video games, and browse on my computer at the same time.
Yeah, my internet's so fast I could download a whole season of shows before my noodles run cooking.
Mine's so fast when I go to church online, service actually over early.
Mine's so fast when I'm working from home, 5 o'clock, come before 3.
Sound like you got this BTC fiber internet speed bump like me.
But it's so fast, I had to have it.
Current fiber internet bundle customers now have as much as 3 times the speed. Totally free. Link up with BTC.
With the outbreak of COVID-19, we find ourselves having to be more self-sufficient, socially aware, and technically savvy. At J.S. Johnson, we remain committed to our customers during this global pandemic. Our Nassau and Freeport branches are open to assist you remotely, Monday to Friday, between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Call 397-2100 or email info@jsjohnson.com. Be safe, Bahamas. J.S. Johnson Insurance Agents and Brokers, giving you peace of mind.
Are you a contractor or new homeowner? Maybe you need a few pieces of lumber for your DIY projects. Welcome to Capital Lumber, the newest building materials company in the Bahamas. Located on Parkgate Road, Nassau, helping you to maximize your savings on lumber, cement, shingles, tools, and much more. Your one-stop shop for all your building essentials. With free delivery to the mail booth, visit us today. Capital Lumber, build strong.
O'clock. Welcome back to our extended coverage of Nicole in the north. I want to remind you that if you have any pictures or videos that you would like to share on the impact of Hurricane Nicole, you can WhatsApp it to 727-0842. And you can also give us a call at 351-9774. And we will give you credit for the pictures and videos that you send in. And for anybody that is watching that would like to call into the show, we invite you to do so. As I mentioned earlier, Rick, some persons from Bahamians are commenting saying that, yeah, Bahamian water is running, and they agree with you that the power utility, not the water. That's Janet Mullings in Bahamian commenting, but it certainly is good news to know that, after experiencing what we experienced during Dorian, that the infrastructures are holding up a lot better. A lot of these companies would have invested millions into upgrading their infrastructures, and now, as you mentioned, it's being put to the test, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, it's really fared well as far as how things have gone. Now, I know there are those areas that are pocket in terms of loss of electricity and that sort, and that was to be expected based on the kinds of gusts that we had earlier this afternoon. The winds that was out there was absolutely incredible in terms of the debris that was actually being pushed across the road. Yeah. And then also with having a lot of the dead debris hit the power lines and that kind of stuff of that sort. But then on the other side of that, we still have the entities, for example, the water company. We know what their situation is out there in Wellfield 6, but otherwise the island main pocket area fared well. Yeah. Okay. Even though we've been having a lot of rain, there isn't much flooding inland. Right. It is only confined to the coastal regions, which has been pretty good because, as you know, the Queens Cove area is basically a flood zone. You're supposed to be out there anyhow. Right. So anybody who out there in Queens Cove, you're there on your own accord, nobody coming to get you. So if you're there, keep swimming and going to West Palm Beach, because we're not coming out there. We've said this over and over again. Nothing on that side of the island we're going to be concerned about. Luckily for us, many of those folks who are up there in the Lady Lakes area who are now trying to rebuild, not having too much to concern themselves this time, as there wasn't that much in terms of the swells coming over, and that will help. And even in Chesapeake, that would have also come up unscathed this time, as we didn't have much of the water pressing across the island. But the flat-lying areas, once you leave from the airport going west, we knew very well that that was going to be inundated. And now come tomorrow, once the storm leaves, doesn't get off of the west end area, then the wind will swing and come now out of the southeast, and that will now bring some swells to our shores and going from there. And this is where we need to let our residents know, please do not be a hero like we've seen some folks do, want to go out to the beach and it'll go play around in the water. That's not a very good idea. As you heard, there will be rip currents. Okay, and
for days after.
Right, and we don't want that to happen. And we've already had and seen what happens with rip currents and how people can actually find themselves in trouble. And if you're not an experienced swimmer, you could find yourself in a mess. And those mariners that are going to be itching to get out there back in the waters to continue your fishing and looking for your various traps and other stuff from there, take your time. Wait until the Met Office and everybody give you the okay to go out there. And then when you do go, you got to be very, very careful. Okay? And then also come tomorrow, once we start traversing the streets, we're going to have to be very careful because there will be items that's been thrown around. And so if you're going to be moving around tomorrow, and if you don't have to go, don't go. All right? As it is stands, schools, everything is closed on the island. All right, many of the businesses will be looked into. Folks are going to go and check and see how their entities have fared, and then begin to slowly open tomorrow and see whatever happens. And so there is no immediate rush. Right. Okay. New Providence is back in business tomorrow. Okay, no problem. Let Grand Bahama and Abaco slowly get itself up and running and back to where it needs to be in a safe manner. That's the important part.
Absolutely. I was most happy to hear that we didn't have any incidents, accidents, no deaths, nothing being recorded or reported since this storm has threatened the northern Bahamas. And one of the areas of concern that is usually an area of concern is right across from the Hawksville area, the Regency Park in Bahamian. We know that is normally a flood area, and those persons living in that area are still recovering as well, still rebuilding, and it seems as though they may have escaped this one unscathed as well.
Right, and I think for a lot of folks who I do know live in that area and seeing the kind of work that has been put into getting their lives back together again. And earlier today, you did have Peter was talking about the mental attribute in terms of having to deal with the situation and what could possibly have happened. Luckily for us, it came through as a tropical storm and then ventured more to the north and did not sit on us as you found we had with Dorian. And so that's good. That was a very good situation. Down in the back by where the police training college is, another hell-bent area. People are paranoid because they're still not finished yet. Okay, you know, we just launched the small home repair project, and that's now beginning to start. And so people, after Dorian, is still trying to get themselves together. Tarps and everything on the roofs, and Gomez spoke about people going to the shelters because their homes are not adequate for them to be in it. Because reality is, if you've ridden around Grand Bahama, you would have noticed there are a number of homes still with tarp on the roofs. And now you're talking about 70-mile-an-hour winds. We've had gusts, and so many of those homes have been inundated with water, and that's going to be another exercise down the road, another mind-boggling scenario for many of our residents to endure. So it's going to be a slow recovery aspect for some people, but for the most part, the island would have fared well at this juncture.
Absolutely. And Grand Bahamians have endured so much over the past several years, and I just can imagine the feeling of relief that this storm didn't do that much damage or cause that much damage as Dorian did in the storms prior to Dorian. For many persons who, like you mentioned, are rebuilding, have already used insurance monies to repair their homes, and so many cars that are on the island that were imported after Dorian. And that was another concern for persons. For me, I remember me personally, my car being here and losing my vehicle as well, and I know that has been a concern for persons. Where am I going to put my car? Is my car going to be flooded again? I can't afford to purchase another vehicle at this time. But that has been a concern as well.
A lot of folks have many concerns, and especially now that we've gone through this so-called economic spin in terms of where we're going and how things are going to work. And even up to last week, we had individuals that are still utilizing the duty-free concessions to bring stuff back and to help get their homes together. Like my people in East Grand Bahama, especially them, they've been doing their best to try to get back together.
Absolutely. We're going to come back to that point, especially with the Sears order coming up. We have John Pinder on the line now from Abaco. John, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you. Was it a traumatizing experience for residents over there in Abaco? Kind of give us an idea of how residents have fared and how they were feeling during the passing of the storm.
Well, first of all, I believe all the residents took this seriously, and they tried to prepare the best they can with the limited time at hand. But the most concerning matter is that it came on a high tide, and the full moon was on Tuesday, so it was a super high tide that morning at about 8:30. And with the extreme swell on the ocean and the rise of the storm surge, it caused most of the communities that are low-lying, coastal, or at sea level to flood. So we have extensive flood damage, unfortunately, and that's the most pressing part. I know the two central shelters, Central Abaco shelters in last night, the two Central Abaco shelters were full, and we extended in addition to the shelters at the Patrick J. Bethel High School, and then we encourage everyone to prepare as possible. But the biggest concern right now is the flooding, and we have had a 8:45 p.m. high tide again, and a lot of the areas have risen in water. So all in all, I believe the wind damage is minimal, but more so the water damage. But from initial reports, we seem to have fared okay in terms of wind. Water damage is extensive, and we're doing a full assessment starting daybreak tomorrow morning on all of Abaco.
As the Member of Parliament for South Abaco, we were just talking about the duty-free extension. Is that something that you think needs to be considered at this time? We know it ends on December 1st, considering what has been happening, especially with this storm.
That would be a conversation at hand. I know that the Umbrella SIRS Act is to be discontinued previous to the storm. Moving forward, it was supposed to be a case by case. The primary reason for that SIRS Act is for Bahamians getting back on their feet and rebuilding, and those from the original Dorian. I would like to see a form of that, not to say an umbrella for all new, previous, and rebuilds, but there definitely can be a form of it moving forward. But I'm confident that this government has, Abaco has their full support. I've been in constant contact with DPM, Cooper, Acting Prime Minister, and Minister Miles LaRota for NEMA and DRA, and I'm assured that Abaco will get the support they need to overcome this serious speed bump in our recovery.
Okay. What can you tell us about Elbow Key, where the storm made landfall?
Yeah, the eye came over Elbow Key just as it did for Dorian. There was extensive flooding in the low areas around the harbor's edge and a couple coastal places. The seas are extremely raged, serious swell coming on shore. But all in all, we did well. We've been out of power for some time, on and off, but that is due to the winds and the distribution lines. But we did quite well.
Okay.
But the other question we have for you is the fact that you were moving back to normalcy so quickly, and now you get another setback. What do you say to your people about the resilience and then hanging in there in order to overcome this one as well?
Abaco is going to be more than it ever has in the past. We're on a path to recovery like none other. Even if there's a speed bump or a hurdle in the way, we're resilient. We're going to get past it. We're going to move forward. We're going to be bigger than economy-wise, culture-wise, and overall safety and all in Abaco. So the real matter of fact is we must be resilient and we must be Abaco strong.
There you go. The keys, I know they were brought back into the system very, very quickly. What is the results you're getting from the keys, and how are they fared at this point, sir?
The keys, the two major ferry services stopped service on Tuesday evening. And then, no, I'm sorry, it was Monday evening. I apologize. And then they're supposed to be starting up again tomorrow morning. Besides from that, most of the small vessels were taken out of the water to be secured for the hurricane and whatnot. So there's been limited vessels throughout. Communication has been relatively good via BTC and Alive, and BPL has been sporadic, but I believe the cleanup and the getting back to business phase of the keys will happen rather quickly. I know we had a couple of breaches on certain ends of the islands in terms of dunes and low-lying areas, but with the support of this current government, I'm sure we can move forward and get back to business rather soon. The upcoming season is right around the corner, and tourism is well in demand in Abaco. We are blessed to have a lot of foreign visitors wanting to come and see what Abaco is.
Yeah, that's a concern I had, because I know you're going into your winter season, especially this time of the year. Going close to Thanksgiving is when you will get a number of visitors that will be coming out of the United States and to get away from the cold, and so that numbers are going to increase. Do you see this continuing, or is this just a setback, a small setback in getting things going the way it should be going?
No, this will be like I said, a bit of a hurdle. The Keys and in particular resorts will be able to come out more cleanly and be ready for the upcoming season. I don't see any effect in the tourism market, but particularly the personal property damage and the businesses and the low-lying areas and the dock damage, that's really what hurt us on this one. Like I said, the tides were high, the swell was extreme, and with the storm surge, it created a coastal flooding at, I would say, every community. I don't believe one was spared.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us here, Mr. Pinder. I know you have a busy night ahead of you and also tomorrow, but thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
All right. You'll have a blessed evening. Thank you much. Bye-bye.
All right. That was the Member of Parliament for Central and South Abaco, John Pinder. We do have a reporter on the island of Abaco. He was speaking with us earlier, mentioning that the conditions are beginning to get a little bit better, and it certainly was a challenging time for those on the island, having gone through Hurricane Dorian in 2019. But our Shane Stubbs is on the ground and filed this report earlier today.
Yes, Remiko, I'm here in the Dundas Town area in central Abaco, and guess what? The weather has begun to settle down as Tropical Storm Nicole begins to make its way from Abaco. Earlier today, we showed you footage of the same area behind me where the waves were raging, and it just seemed like doom and gloom. But now we also have some minimal reporting on some flooding in Marsh Harbor. Now we caught up with one Abaco resident who was astounded to talk about the resilience of the Abaco people.
I was watching the weather from last night. We got a lot of rain, a lot of breeze in the community where we live. We stay indoors until it eased up this morning, and we came out. And after we came out, we check out our neighbors, and everybody are doing well. All I can say, thanks be to God, and thanks, Lord. Thank God for everything that Abaco so far has been safe from the storm that passed by. I don't know what is going on down in Crown Haven, but I pray and hope that the Spirit of the Lord will protect them the way they protect us. And I want to say, to God be the glory for everyone that take the heat and went into shelter, who believe their home was not safe to be in.
We are in the last leg of this thing. It's also still advised that people stay indoors, only come out if you have to. So right now, Tropical Storm Nicole is making her way away from Abaco, and people here can breathe a little easier. We know that this was a stressful time for them. They're coming off the heels of Dorian. They lost so much, and to have to deal with the storm that came basically in the same path as Dorian, now they can just kind of relax, take it easy. It's expected that they definitely will come out on the better end of this. For my cameraman, Roger Russell, I'm Shane Stubbs reporting live for the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Back to you, Remiko.
Thank you so much, Shane. You get a kind of sense of relief there seeing that report versus the one that we saw earlier today when the water was just all over the place. But now it seems to be a lot more calmer, and I'm sure Roger's happy about that.
And listen, what a difference 5 hours make, especially for Roger. He's Panic City, you know how that is. And good thing Shane was there to hold his hand, because I know how he would have gone in that regards. But, you know, when you look at what has happened in Abaco, we heard earlier today from the NEMA press conference where there had to be a island-wide shutdown to protect the equipment that BPL has over there, and now to come tomorrow they'll be able to get back up and running and going from there. That's another learned lesson from the previous events in doing so. But with all indications, things will be moving in the right direction. Now, as we heard earlier, the weather has now subsided quite a bit, and then even for us in another 5 hours or so, the same thing will apply here. But the whole idea is that we came out of this one looking a lot better than we anticipated because of the high winds and things that we were going to see. But the fact is most of us listened, and I think we listened well. That made some things happen in the right manner. I'm very impressed with the fact that the Abaco community has taken the advice and made sure from the offset, when we saw earlier from the shelter with Silbert Mills and things that was happening, a lot of folks taking advantage of it. And even here, the same way, we're okay. But come tomorrow will be the testing point when we get a chance now to see exactly what the real damage is to some of the areas and then go from there. They mentioned Crown Haven, which is up at the western end of the island. I don't know. That's what crossed my mind. They have no buffer. They have nothing out there.
And what's the concern for one of the residents too, who just mentioned it as well?
I was thinking about that because that's the hop to come across through the creek to get to McLeanstown to come back over. And so again, that shallow water, and with the storm out there on that side, that'll be another area. So once the administrators and all the various public officials make their assessments tomorrow, we'll get a better understanding as to what is transacted. The same applying for East Grand Bahama as well.
I'm interested hearing, especially with kind of how East Grand Bahama fared in this storm. We'll check back in to get with that. But North Abaco facing extreme weather conditions with flooding and heavy winds and rain tonight. The Member of Parliament for North Abaco is joining us with an update on the aftermath of the storm. That is Kirk Cornish. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Okay. Just kind of give us an update of what's been happening as this storm passes.
Well, presently we still experiencing some wind, but the weather has subsided. There was some flooding, but first and foremost, all indication is that everyone is safe. And we are grateful to God that we didn't have any life loss. There are very little damages to our homes. The power has been restored. The water is back on. And I would like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude and appreciation to the local government practitioners, all the township members. They would have stepped up and came through big for the communities. The Royal Bahamas Police Force, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, Social Services, and the shelter managers. As person adhered to the evacuations, and many persons occupied our shelters throughout North Abaco. I'm extremely grateful that we don't have no life loss reported as yet, and it is my prayer and hope that we don't have any.
Will this storm in any way have an impact on the continued rebuilding efforts of Abaco?
Absolutely, I think it will. As you are fully aware that there are many homes that remained in conditions since Dorian, and it is only made worse by the weather that we experienced. And it is my hope that this weather will encourage the private sectors, the NGOs, the international world, as well as the government, to really put a lot more emphasis into the rebuilding process in Abaco. I have the support of my government. I made suggestions to the Prime Minister, and he told me as soon as it becomes possible, those agencies that would be offering restoration will be engaged and initiated on Abaco. I'm just hoping that we can get it started sooner rather than later. And hope this weather hopefully will demonstrate the need to have it done rather quicker.
Okay, and we were talking earlier today. You mentioned that we're certainly excited that happy to hear that there were no loss of life reported on the island. And you've been someone who have been advocating for persons to seek higher ground and get into shelter, especially for those residents who were in the dorm. So I'm sure that that is something that you're happy to report, that there's no loss of life.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the long-term effect of losing a loved one, we still try to recover from the losses of Dorian. And to have a repeat would only further put us in a more psychological downfall. We are still trying to recover. Our minds and hearts are still, suffering from Dorian, and I'm just grateful that there was no life loss, as indicated. As yet, there hasn't been any, and I hope that be the report throughout and for the remainder of the time, because it's difficult to have the conversation thinking of the trauma that is caused by the loss of thinking about the loss of families. I'm just grateful that there's no life loss.
And what is next now, going into tomorrow, waiting for the all clear to be given? How do you begin to ensure residents that things are all good in Abaco and everything is safe? What's next for you?
Well, first we have to do an assessment to assess that what is damaged, what was lost, what happened, and I would just like to reassure the residents of Abaco that this administration, we care, we feel their pain, we know their needs, and we will be answering the call. Whatever we can do, we will do. The process is not going to be overnight, it won't be instant, but they can rest assured that they have a government that will be working for and on their behalf, who will be listening to them, who cares, and of course, we will be there with them.
Question for you. I know with the young people in your community, the second go round of this thing, how are you guys handling the kids in terms of keeping them grounded and understanding that this too will pass?
My experience with the kids is it affects them, and it's very concerning because as a child you would want to enjoy your childhood. And these repeat weather circles is having a adverse effect on them. I'm seeing kids when weather build up in their faces, there's sadness and there's even fear. There's a need for psychological help, persons to sit with them and hopefully encourage them and let them know that the weather is natural occurrences, and you can survive it, but there's a lot of fear in the eyes of the kids, and we're going to have to continue working with them on a daily basis, because I think they are affected far more than the adults, and I think somehow we might be overlooking or underestimating the effect that these cyclones are having on our kids.
I was very concerned with that because when I realized that your community was getting back into schools and you're back into wholesome competition among the schools and things are going well, and then all of a sudden you now have a stoppage in this particular episode here, may have had an adverse effect. And I would believe that when school reopens that there will be many sessions with our children in order to get them to understand that this is only a stepping stone to better things for Abaco.
It certainly is my hope, and that is exactly what is needed. I've had the opportunity to visit the sporting basketball games and one or two youth functions that they were having, and as you indicated, it's the road of recovery. You start to see the smiles on their faces. You start to see like some normalcy and coming back in their lives. And only now to have this relapse, it's concerning. But Abaco are very resilient people. They're hardworking, they're focused, determined, they are God-fearing. And it is my belief, along with my hope, that we're going to rebuild, we're going to get back one day at a time. And we definitely will put a lot of emphasis into our kids in the sporting facilities and programs that can keep their minds occupied and away from all of the seriousness of these weather cyclones.
Great. Another community effort ahead of you. I know tomorrow you'll be very, very busy moving around and doing the assessments from Crown Haven, working your way down, and so that things will be sorted out. And I do believe that the North Abaco district has come out of this a lot better than you anticipate. And so much will happen for tomorrow and moving forward in the next couple of days. Abaco will be a shining light again as we were looking at it just a week ago.
Absolutely. I am so grateful for the fact that I've always said that it's best to be prepared and not needed than to need it and not be prepared. I am grateful that our worst case scenarios wasn't realized. and we did come out of it fairly well. And like you indicated, moving forward, we just are going to shine. We're going to lead the way, show the Bahamas that, we might be down, but we will rise again. We will be back on our feet very shortly. Abaco is very important to the economy of the Bahamas. We boast of being the third largest. I'm of the impression we might be the second. However, whatever we are, we need to get back to that, where we continue to move this country forward by making our contributions.
Absolutely. He mentioned it, Abaco strong, Grand Bahama strong. That was the hashtag going around after Dorian. But thank you so much for joining us here tonight. I know you have a lot of work to do, especially within the morning, so we're going to let you get off and get back to it. But thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you, and it's a pleasure. And you guys stay safe.
You do the same. That was the Member of Parliament, Kirk Cornish, joining us live from Abaco. We also know that strong winds and heavy rains can best describe the current condition in Grand Key, Abaco. We had a chance to check in with Craig Cephas to get an update on Tropical Storm Nicole, and we'll now go to that report.
The power just went out. The power went out about an hour ago. The phones went down, but the phones came back up, so that's a plus. But the power's still out. So everybody should be just here waiting. I think the storm should be on passing us by right now, but we don't have no catastrophic damage on the island. Cause this wasn't that bad. It's only 70-mile-an-hour wind storm. So right now we're experiencing 60+ mile-an-hour wind. So we're not gonna be getting much more than this now. So that's a good thing.
And residents are staying indoors.
Yes, everybody, that's a good thing too, because usually during storms, a lot of people usually wandering the streets. You got one or two people on the street, one or two guys, but nothing major. Everybody is indoors, so that's a good thing. Everybody's indoors.
From the Family Island Administrator for the Berry Islands, Deidre Fox. She praises her team for their hard work and devotion to ensuring the safety of all 900 residents of the Berry Islands. After completing their hurricane preparations, they are all eagerly awaiting the passage of the storm, and she describes the current condition.
We are having rain, high winds, high seas, high waves. Everybody's off the road. Everybody's home, being secure and being safe. The thing about the rain is it keeps Bahamians at home. And during a storm, hurricane, whatever, everybody should be indoors. And that's exactly what's happening present in the Berry Islands. Everybody is indoors and safe.
Island Administrator for Bimini, Desiree Ferguson, and her team believes that they can breathe a sigh of relief as well.
Okay, everybody's okay in Bimini. We are not under the hurricane watch any longer. We are now under tropical storm watch. Since we was put on that watch, we had our heaviest rain, and the wind is still about 30 to 35 knots out there. But everybody's still in good shape. We still have 2 shelters up. We have 1 person still in the shelter, and we are waiting now for our all clear.
Well, Rick, we heard from Grand Key, Bimini, and the Berry Islands. All seem to be breathing a sigh of relief as the storm passes over the northern Bahamas.
I listened to Craig, right? Mm-hmm. Craig is a mariner, all right? And Craig is a crazy man, all right? And Craig go out there fishing off of there in Grand Key, and he talking about, oh, it's only 70 mile an hour. Craig, buddy, 70 mile an hour and you're in Grand Key. Now, I understand Grand Key is a very fortunate island as far as little Grand Key and everything else, because remember that during Dorian, they didn't have much in terms of damage, in terms of what happens over there. And here we are again in another storm. But, the winds and everything else. And too, everybody works as a unit in Grand Key. Everybody works as a family, and they make some things happen. But Craig, 70 mile an hour winds, buddy, that's plenty wind, okay? Only because you guys have that little rock around y'all are okay. The other one I like was the fact that Ms. Fox said point blank, Bahamians don't like rain.
Don't like rain.
Okay, so if it's raining, you stay inside, right? And That speaks well about exactly what is transacted for the entire day. Because from this morning, you were getting the winds with the rain. And so because of the rain, a lot of folks would not come out and venture and then don't want to be sightseeing. And so that helped a lot of folks to stay inside, and that made it well. Same thing applied in Bimini. You know, you had the rain, and so people stayed in, and that was quite unique. But I think it worked well. For the islands and how things have done. And again, a blessing for the islands of the Bahamas that we've been able to come through this one. And the quicker we get to tomorrow morning and this thing is somewhere in the back of us, we're going to be okay.
And that's what we're all waiting for the, not just the all clear, but for the all clear for residents as well, and things can go back to normal and we can get out of this hurricane season. Well, that's just another point there. Remember that you're not finished yet. We're not finished yet. Okay, because even though the closing date will be the 30th of November, there is still probability of something happening down the road. This has not been a usual year, right? In terms of the number of storms that we've seen transacted. From June, we've had our first storm, and so we are in November having another storm. So it's been unusual. So the best bet, like you would have heard from Mr. Cornish, keep your guard up. Keep your guard up. Keep your guard up until we get down until when John Canoe start. Then you can feel like better. But until John Canoe start, keep your guard up. Absolutely. The guards are staying up. But stay with us. Nicole in the North is back after this.
Car insurance, home insurance, marine insurance, this insurance, that insurance. The truth is, you may not like it very much, but you need insurance, and it has to work for you. That's why Summit insurance policies are designed with you and your life in mind, fitting your lifestyle and needs perfectly. So you can rest comfortably knowing that your car, home, boat, and business are well taken care of. Contact our agents at Insurance Management today. Summit Insurance. We peak above all others.
Welcome to the all-new CBS Pro Store. We'll be introducing various products such as plywood, sheetrock, metal stud, and a whole array of bulk construction products. So you can expect the same high level of service that you have been receiving at CBS Bahamas. We originally opened the store in 1980 as our retail location. Hearing from our customers that they wanted us to cater more to contractors, we decided to open the CBS Pro Store here at Robinson Road. So come by and visit us at CBS Pro Store on Robinson Road, where we can help you build beautiful.
Hey, it's your honorary pump attendant here to educate you on the do's and don'ts at the service station. Here's what you don't do. Do not pull up from the pump without first checking that the nozzle has been removed from your car. Because if you pop this, that's about $600,000 to $30,000 to replace. These things ain't cheap. What you want to do is make sure that the nozzle has been removed, or just wait for the universal sign, which is the double tap.
Welcome back to our extended coverage of Nicole in the North. If you were just joining us, we just heard from residents of Grand Key, Bimini, and Berry Islands who are breathing a sigh of relief as the storm continues to pass over the northern Bahamas and make its way from Grand Bahama. And at this moment, we were eager to hear from residents of East Grand Bahama to find out how things were. We understand that East Grand Bahama is also taking a licking from Hurricane Nicole. Pastor Freddie Lang now joins us on the phone. Pastor Lang, given what residents in East Grand Bahama went through during Dorian, would you say they heeded the evacuation call?
Oh, definitely. Definitely they did. Most of the residents are either in shelters or they are in Freeport living with family members, family and friends.
Absolutely. I know that would have been a concern for yourself, who has been down there rebuilding since Hurricane Dorian, and your church as well, St. Matthew, which is pretty much near completion. But for you, we understand that you didn't even stay down there during this time.
No, I did not stay, even though I was in close communication with someone who stayed in Pelican Point. In fact, just less than 5 minutes ago, just talking with someone from Pelican Point.
Okay. What are they saying? What are the conditions down there at this point with you speaking to someone from the area? What are they saying?
Well, right now, the worst is past. However, there is still some level of wind and rain still consistent in Pelican Point at this time, as we speak.
Okay, has there been any significant reports of flooding or any damages or anything of that being reported?
Not in the community of Pelican Point, no. Based on what they were telling me is some level of flooding was in the government school area, but it's nothing that crazy or anything like that.
Okay. We understand that some 200 plus persons evacuated from that area to find into shelters. And I was mentioning yesterday that speaks well for the area. It means that a lot of persons have returned back to the area in the wake of Hurricane Dorian.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And I have nothing but good to say about East Enders. They are very resilient. They've been working, trying to get home. And however, when the word came from Freeport and the chief consular and all of the others encouraged to evacuate, they take heed and they move on into Freeport, which is inland.
Okay, and that is where you are as well. But talk a little about the faith of the persons down there. Has there been a sense of any fatigue setting in? I know a lot of persons in Grand Bahama, when I spoke to them prior to the storm making its approach here, that a lot of persons seem to be tired and weary. But what is the spirit of East Enders at this present time?
Well, you definitely would have some being a bit tired. You would have a few with a sense of fatigueness, but however, as for the vast majority, we know who God is, and we're continuing to trust in Him, and we know that He won't just leave us nor forsake us. He promised to protect His own, and we are His children. And so we'll continue to trust in Him with all our hearts and not to lean onto our own understanding, because if we do that, then we know that we will falter.
When I spoke to you last in 2019, I remember these words, you're not concerned about the way things look at this present time, but you're more so happy about what is to come after this. And there seems to have been quite a bit of blessings for East Enders in the following Hurricane Dorian. Talk a little about that.
Well, my brother, you have very good memory, I can tell you that. but yes. We are very hopeful. We are very hopeful in East Grand Bahama, and it's like a boxer who would have gotten knocked down to the cannabis. The next place is to get up. And so, as for East End, we are very hopeful as to what God would do, as to the help from the government and perhaps other entities. We are just very hopeful. We aren't looking behind now. What is behind is gone, like the Apostle Paul would say. What is behind is behind. We are pressing forward to a brighter day.
Pastor Lang, as you look forward now, you have tomorrow where many of the officials will be in the district and get a full assessment as to how the whole east of Grand Bahama would have fared. For you and the residents, as we were having a celebration with all the various events that have just passed, to continue to build on it, that is your plan in terms of moving forward?
You broke up. I really didn't get that. I'm sorry.
What I'm saying is that now, come tomorrow, when you get the full assessment of what's going on and moving forward now, I know there is much happening in the Eastern District. It's now becoming a I want to go to visit place. Do you see that continuing now?
Oh, definitely, Ricardo. Definitely. Eastern is definitely the place to be, and we can only hope and pray for a continuation of that momentum, definitely.
You know, one of the good things about going to East End is, and Ramiko may not agree with me, but the best coconut tart you could find up there, right?
Well, you better tell Ramiko the truth, and continue to talk to him, because East Grand Bahama is the place to be. Coconut tart, you name it, and many other stuff.
I love it. I love it, sir.
You know that I would agree with that, saying that that's where my navel string is from. He knows just as well as I know that East End is my home.
Definitely.
But Pastor Freddie Lang, what's next for East Enders? You mentioned that the government has assisted in getting you guys back up and running and rebuilding. And also we know that a lot of NGOs assisted, especially you with your church, and a lot of churches in the area are still rebuilding. And one of your long-term goals was to see a shelter specifically in East Grand Bahama, more so in Pelican Point, McLeanstown, for residents who would not have to necessarily leave the area, but be in that specific vicinity. What is that? Where are we with that?
Well, I can't really speak too much to that. However, though, we really would like something tangible, because God knows we don't want to continue to have to move and evacuate East Grand Bahama for a subtropical storm, or a tropical storm, or even a Category 1. We would definitely need something very tangible and that would be able to sustain something massive. I'm sure you all would agree that it is a lot for us, and so we would need something tangible, strong, and so that we can stay home.
Yeah, and I'm sure that is something that many of the residents in the area are looking forward to as well.
Oh, definitely, because come on, what are the message you're sending? If the residents cannot stay in their newly built home in a Category 1, come on now, you know. But anyway, we are still trusting in God, and He won't just leave us.
Absolutely.
Speaking of newly built homes, kind of give us an update on where East Enders are in terms of rebuilding. I know a lot of the homes down there would have gotten experienced some damage, and a lot of persons were still rebuilding. But we know that many persons have returned home. But where are you now in terms of rebuilding?
Well, I like to put it like this: all of the lengths of your fingers are different lengths, and while some haven't even did their foundation yet, while others are already moved in. But as it relates to the entire East Grand Bahama, folks have already moved back in their homes, while others are really still needing help. They are still needing help. And so it's kind of hard for me to directly answer the question, because while I said, while some are already in because they may have received minimal damage, but then again, others, oh my God, they are a bit further off.
Wow, and just to clarify that, you said some persons are still on their foundations.
Yes, definitely. We have in Pelican Point Violet Roberts. She desperately needs help. And this is a senior citizen. But then and again, you have someone else who is already in, you know?
And for East Enders, and many of the persons living in that area is pretty much family. I know that it must not be a good feeling to see persons that you grew up with, perhaps your aunt, your uncles, your great aunts, your great uncles, living in such conditions.
Correct. And to add to it, Ramiko, some of these persons are elderly, and the only sorts of income they have is their pension. And how long would it take for you to save up your pension to build a house? You know, it's a lot.
Okay, we have a question coming in from someone listening to you on our live. You being a pastor in the area, kind of talk about what the church is doing to help the residents in that area move forward.
Oh, well, as it relates to Pelican Point, and I would really speak to this, you know, that's where I pastor. What we have decided to do, because unfortunately, when you're in Pelican Point and your entire church was destroyed, you know, it was very hard, very difficult. However, though, have honored some of our elders, and we would have solicited funds. Now, it may not be a whole lot of money, but I can tell you one thing: it was very good and substantial to go to help them, to maybe buy a couple bundles of shingles or some sheetrocks or whatever the case may be. We have already done that for about three or four of our elderly persons, and we have another one we are doing on the 27th of this month, and we'll continue to do that all the way into next year, honoring and at the same time soliciting funds, and persons are sowing into these elderly persons' life, and so we can be able to help them out. And I can only hope that the same thing would go through the other neighboring communities of the East. But that's what Freddie Lang and St. Matthew's Baptist Church is doing in Pelican Point. And we'll hope that it goes through elsewhere as well.
Absolutely. Great. At this point, are there still any NGOs that are assisting in the area?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, let's stay positive, Reverend Lang. I know much will happen as we get ready to close out the month of November soon, and then December, which is the holiday season, and maybe some Christmas cheer can be brought to the residents of your district.
Yeah, now you're talking. Yes, yes. And again, I agree with you, Ricardo. We want to be very positive because we know who our God is. We know who our God is. Our God he didn't throw three boys, allow three boys to go in the fire and left them all alone. He sent a fourth person there. And likewise, he won't throw you into a lion's den and just allow the lions to devour you. He would stand with you. Likewise, East Grand Bahama, God will stand with us, and we know he would send the relevant persons there to help us and see us through.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us here tonight, Pastor Freddie Lang, a resident of East Grand Bahama. I'll probably check in with you tomorrow. I know you're going to go back into the area to kind of get an update on what's happening.
As soon as I get the all clear, I'm out there.
All right, absolutely. So I'll check in with you tomorrow.
Oh, blessings, man.
All right. That was Pastor Freddie Lang, one of the pastors in East Grand Bahama, and also my good cousin.
Yeah, you know, and a lot of the folks from the Eastern District actually came out of the area early.
Yeah.
I do know of a number of folks who I see as I walk in the mornings, and they're now with their relatives again. They were with them for about a year. As they were rebuilding, and they just moved back into the Eastern District, and I was quite shocked. Like on Monday, they were already down. They knew this storm was going to be a problem, and so they moved down early enough so that they could have gotten out, and so they'll go back up tomorrow and see exactly how their dwelling is and go from there. But you know, it is an ongoing concern, like he said, in trying to provide a shelter of some sort up there in that area, which is kind of difficult because of the locale. And I think of the way that the land has made my mind ran on the fact that they were going to be putting in a primary school right beyond the High Rock area on that ridge in the back there where they have the old satellite for the NASA rocket scenario. Probability that could be also built and constructed to that kind of uniform scenario where the people in the High Rock and the McLeanstown, the people in the middle can utilize that. But there's a lot of conversation has to take place with that to happen. And as we continue to have the facet of global warming. Our oceans are rising. You know, I sat there and I said to myself, this is something that was said to me as a little boy when I was 10 years old, that when I become a grown man, I'm going to have to experience it. Now I'm living it.
Now you're living it.
And so our children will now have to live a whole different scenario beyond global warming. And so we're going to have to now think 15, 20 years down the road as to how we now take care of our country, build up our islands to facilitate any kind of natural occurrence as we are experiencing today.
Absolutely. We just spoke to Pastor Freddie Lang from East Grand Bahama, and as he mentioned, the residents are holding on to faith and holding on to the altar. And speaking of that, Pastor Simeon Oughton knows all too well the pain of losing it all in a hurricane. Tonight he joins us live on the phone. Pastor Simeon Oughton, what do you say to persons who are hurricane fatigued?
Just hold on a few minutes. Things are looking good. I'm so thankful that this storm is slowly fading away. We are such a resilient people. We've been so accustomed to hurricane, and I know it's just been more than we can handle, but God continue to give us grace and strength.
Absolutely. As we mentioned, you're someone that is grown accustomed to hurricanes and losing, you know, valuable items, your homes and things that you value. How did you fare during this storm? And was that a concern of yours as you learned that this storm was approaching Grand Bahama?
You know, there's always something in the back of your mind. I'm just hoping this one would not be like the last one. I did my preparation like everyone else. I'm so pleased that we fared well over the bridge. There's no flooding. One or two streets are down, but overall, I'm thankful. But it's always in the back of your mind. You're just hoping you wouldn't relive what you've experienced before. So you try to prepare, do some things different. And that's exactly what I did. But I'm thankful this is on the way out.
Absolutely. And in terms of rebuilding, and you mentioned doing things different, what are some of the things that you did differently or you now do differently after experiencing a storm like Dorian?
Well, obviously I had to rebuild, and so as a contractor, I tried to see what I could have put in. For instance, my back porch was built out of 6x6 posts, so I swapped that out and I went just block and concrete. So you try to do some areas I had stepped down, so now I step up. I live over the bridge right on the canal, so I just have to do some things different and just continue to be hopeful. I think also, let me use this opportunity, man. Y'all have done an amazing job. I've been watching you and Ricardo and Peter Ashley and the other guests. Y'all have kept us informed, and I'm hats off to you and your production team.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that comment. Rick, we're seeing images of Pastor Simeon's Oughton house on the screen, which was pretty much decimated in Hurricane Dorian. I know you're looking at that like, wow.
Listen, Simeon has to be the most equipped person with faith, because when we go back to his home in 8 Mile Rock, when that 20-pound boulder came through and destroyed it, totally destroyed it, that was a point for us, because we went and we sat with him and we prayed and we regarded this was only a to deal with his parishioners who have also had to endure those kinds of things. And so to look at where Simeon is and what he has done, and to see how he's been able to hold the faith. Okay, in terms of tomorrow will be a brighter day. And I think that's been one of the key things, and even with his church, that's what he pushes on a day-to-day basis, that this too shall pass. And I think that's been a part of it. And so for me, and knowing Simeon, Simeon, I can let the cat out of the bag. We born on the same day. So we have that resilience, right? We born the same day, so we have a unique bond in terms
we
of
get
that.
to celebrate that no matter where we are in the world.
Absolutely. So knowing Simeon all these years and knowing where he was and where he is at this point says much about how he's able to maintain and stay focused in terms of where he's going. And this storm that came through was again a reminder. And I know come this week he will have much counseling to do with a lot of his parishioners, who many of them have now having flashbacks about the Dorian era and this thing and what has happened over the last couple of days. And so that's the kind of work that has to be done. It's an ongoing counseling structure, and it's an ongoing concern. And Simeon, continue to walk in faith, my brother. Continue to move in that direction.
Man, I so appreciate, as a senior pastor, you're being knocked down and then having to hear the hearts and cries of those that you serve, trying to comfort them, seeing how you can lend assistance, and at the same time, you're trying to think about how you're going to rebuild. But we serve an amazing God who gives wisdom and he gives strength. And so tonight I'm so grateful that despite all of what we've encountered, I think we're still coming out and we're going to be all right. Grand Bahama strong, no doubt.
Absolutely. And I often ask the question, Rick, talk about resilience. And you being a pastor, I often ask the question to persons of the faith, who ministers to the minister?
All pastors have a pastor. I would say pretty much all the pastors that I know have a pastor. And then because I'm a part of the clergy, we are always finding ways to strengthen one another based on what they are going through. And so, because we are a group of leaders, we lean on one another for guidance, for counsel, and so that's how it happens.
All right, Simeon, just before you go, what words of advice do you have for persons who may have gotten some flood damage, who may have gotten some kind of damage during this storm, to kind of give them some hope that this too shall pass, and that this doesn't mean that this is the end for you, that you can come and build out of this?
I would simply say to them, dig in, find the strength to hold on, because it's going to get better after this. You have to never give up on your faith of believing. And there's no mistake about what you've experienced, that if you dig in, the help is going to come, be it through government, be it through private, be it through family, friends, through your church, civic organization. Just never lose hope that it's going to get better. And like I told the church just this Sunday, if you have a roof that's leaking, you are very fortunate, because some people don't even have a roof to leak. If you have a stalled car that got messed up in this storm, you're fortunate. Some people don't have a car. And so think of the goodness of God, God's grace and his mercies towards you, and believe it is going to get better. It's happened for me and many others, and it'll happen for them too.
So certainly we should definitely hold on to the altar.
Deliverance, salvation, victory, all is at the altar. And so I encourage them, and all of you that are listening, just hold on, brother. Change is coming. I'm here in Dubai, and I'm watching the wind subside. It's nowhere near as strong as it was today and even tonight. So the change is on the way.
There you go.
Thank you so much for joining us, Pastor Simeon, and continue to be safe during this the passing of this.
Simeon is a contractor, We was trying to get Simeon to hit a nail straight at one point. Simeon is our sound person, and now all of a sudden he's now our contractor. Boy, Simeon, time has really proven to be great, right?
Isn't that amazing? And listen, man, I know we're live on TV, but please say hi to Mom for me, brother.
I will tell Mom that, right? It's good to hear from you, my brother. Take care.
Blessings.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Well, you're watching extended coverage of Nicole in the North. We're going to take a quick break, and we invite you to stay tuned as we have more when we come back.
Throughout our lifetime, we must all make decisions. No matter how we choose, the right one just needs to be made. Like having J.S. Johnson Insurance Agents and Brokers as your insurance partner. We've been serving the Bahamas for over 100 years. Whether you need home, motor, marine, or commercial insurance, make the right decision. Call 397-2100 or visit jsjohnson.com.
JS Johnson Insurance. Peace of mind.
We just got the new fiber internet speed bump. Now my internet so fast I can watch 2 4K movies, play video games, and browse on my computer at the same time.
Yeah, my internet so fast I could download a whole season of shows before my noodles run cooking.
Mine so fast when I go to church online, service actually over early.
Mine so fast when I'm working from home, 5 o'clock, come before 3.
Sound like you got this BTC fiber internet speed bump like me.
But it's so fast, I had to have it.
Current fiber internet bundle customers now have as much as 3 times the speed. Totally free. Link up with BTC.
Are you a contractor or new homeowner? Maybe you need a few pieces of lumber for your DIY projects. Welcome to Capital Lumber, the newest building materials company in the Bahamas. Located on Parkgate Road, Nassau, helping you to maximize your savings on lumber, cement, shingles, tools, and much more. Your one-stop shop for all your building essentials. With free delivery to the mail booth, visit us today. Capital Lumber, build strong.
Stand by and give me no direction. Nicole in the North. If you're just joining us, earlier throughout our show, we spoke to residents from Grand Key. We spoke to residents from Bimini. We spoke to residents in Berry Island. We also heard from our reporter in Abaco, and all of them are reporting that things are well. And so that's certainly good news to hear from our residents in the Family Islands, and especially from our reporter there in Abaco, who is over there doing an excellent job, him and Roger. And so certainly good news to hear, Ricardo.
Yes, and the good part about all of this, too, is that seeing that the storm is now moving well off of the West End area tonight and getting away from us. As you would have heard from Pastor Simeon Oughton, the eastern end of the island is not feeling any much winds right now. The winds have died down successively. We saw from Shane report earlier up there in Abaco when he was getting battered this morning. Right. Now the waters have calmed down, and like they say, peace be still. And that's what we got in Abaco right now. And so now we're seeing it happen in East Grand Bahama, and we're now seeing the wind subside substantively. Yeah. That will now allow for many of our residents to have a bit of comfort. The winds are howling, and everything else makes people a little bit anxious. And so now we can sit and then figure out now, come tomorrow, how we're now going to move forward. The work now continues vigorously for our EOC and those guys to get out there and to make some things happen, and now be able to determine how the road conditions are. Also determine exactly what will be the next phase as far as Grand Bahama Island and being open up so that business can continue as it has been done in the past. So much will happen come tomorrow, and I believe tonight will be a good night for a lot of folks, because when coming out here, first thing my son says to me, the TV ain't going off there. It's like, no, we okay. We're going to be okay. So our kids are now benefiting greatly from it. And so having the advent of being able to have the communication skills and all that available and going from there. And then also I said, well, there's also some time for our kids to catch up on much of the work that's necessary. And so some things are going to be happening. And so as of Friday, with hopefully schools getting back into play and things happening from there. And like we spoke to Brother Cornish in Abaco, he's got to now work with his kids and working with them. And the same is going to apply here for the children of the Eastern District, especially as how they've been affected, and the Western District as well, for the kind of water that they've been able to see over the last day or so as the Bayshore Road was totally inundated. We saw where Jimmy those were down there, the water is all over the road. So we came through this with a optimistic view as to moving forward, and so right now I'm feeling a lot better compared to where we were around about 1:30, 2 o'clock today, when we had those bands coming through, and you could only see the white of the water flying around. So we're good now.
Absolutely. Well, now conditions seem to have died down over the past hour. Joining us is Chief Meteorologist, Orson Nixon, with the latest forecast on the track of Hurricane Nicole. Orson, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. And good evening, good night, Bahamas. The latest on Nicole. Nicole is located about 20 miles north of Providence, about 35 miles northwest of Freeport, and about 90 miles northeast of Bimini. Now, Nicole is still parking winds of about 75 miles per hour, and it's moving west-northwest at about 30 miles per hour. Now, hurricane warning remains in effect for Grand Bahama, where the tropical storm warning is in effect for the remainder of the extreme north.
A hurricane warning remains in effect for Grand Bahama. What about the other islands in the north?
No, they have a tropical storm warning in effect.
Okay, so that's certainly good news. And so just a few more hours before this storm completely gets out of the way for Grand Bahama, or what are we looking at?
Yeah, it's a few more hours until Grand Bahama will be in decline.
Okay, Rick, that's certainly good news, as we were talking
good
about.
news, and going there now also, you mentioned that the storm is now moving at some 13 miles an hour northwest. He also gave a different number in regards to wind speed, because it was up to 75, now it's coming down?
No, it's still 75 miles per hour, which is minimum hurricane.
Okay, any strengthening you see going forward as it leaves us and head over to the Florida region?
Not at this time around our area.
And still considered to be a very large system, right?
Yes, it's actually a large system and is moving away from us. And in a few hours, we should definitely be in success.
Okay, sounds like a winner, but we don't want our residents to believe that because of the calmness that is now going to be coming in another couple hours, that they could just stick their head outside the window and see what's going on. They need to stay where they are until daybreak.
No, make sure you remain indoors until the opener is given. Do not venture outside until that time.
Okay, well, thank you so much for checking in with us, Orson. If there's any new developments, I'm sure we'll hear back from you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Well, this just coming in from the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training, advising that NEMA has now given the all clear for the islands except for Grand Bahama, Abaco, Berry Islands, and Bimini. Effective tomorrow, Thursday, November 10th, 2022, all schools and education offices will reopen, with the exception of those islands on the aforementioned islands. Schools and offices on Grand Bahama, Abaco, Berry Islands, and Bimini will remain closed until NEMA gives the all clear for those islands, and the public is again reminded to check in with the ministry's social media platforms and other official media outlets for updates. And so Grand Bahama is not in the all clear as yet. Bimini is not in the all clear as yet. Berry Islands is not in the all clear as yet. And as we were speaking with Orson earlier, he mentioned that even though when the all clear is given, it's not necessarily for residents.
Not for residents, no. It's for the folks who are going to go out and do the actual determination as to whether or not it is safe for the residents to then begin to traverse the roads and to come out and to move around. But it's just a matter of going out and seeing exactly what damages, if any, have incurred. And so we want to make sure some things happen. But oddly enough, this storm is 20 miles in the back of us.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sitting here, I'm like 20 miles. That means that it's sitting right off there in the corner, moving at 13 miles an hour and working its way slowly all the way down the island. And so this is going to be a little while now as we move closer to that 11 o'clock hour. So up until tomorrow morning, we're going to be still feeling much of the effects of the storm even as it passes. And also we'll see the change in wind direction as well.
Absolutely. We also want to remind residents that the Cabinet Office advises the general public that the National Emergency Management Agency has given the all clear for the islands of New Providence, Eleuthera, and Andros. No all clear has been given as yet for the northern Bahamas. We want to make sure, reiterate that the all clear has not been given for the northern Bahamas. As for everyone else, those islands the all clear has been given by NEMA officials. Also, we have something in here from the airport operation status, but I'll wait for them to give me the clearance for that, and I'll read that just in a few moments. And so, Rick, we're getting out of this thing.
Yeah, you know, compared to where we were yesterday, and saying what transacted today. Today was a day to remember, because at some point, having the rain bands come through, folks took advantage of this opportunity to stay at home, to take care of their families and friends accordingly. The phone systems all functioned quite efficiently, and so folks were quite busy having a wonderful time today. And so now it is a matter of now regrouping, and then also folks can now do the assessment of their properties to ensure that to see exactly what happened today, because there was a lot of stuff being blown around, and so we just want to make sure that everybody's okay. So we're getting there. We're getting out of this thing.
We saw earlier today as well a lot of debris, a lot of trees in the roads, and so officials have quite a bit of work to do tomorrow as they go out and assess the street. We understand that Tammy Mitchell, the deputy co-chair of the Grand Bahama Disaster Consultative Committee, has been on the storm beat for days now, and Tammy is on the line. Tammy, give us your assessment of this storm thus far.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Well, from what we can see now, we are basically, the storm has passed us, and we're still waiting for the all clear, which we know will not be given until sometime in the morning based on the weather report. So we want to continue to remind residents that they should still remain indoors. We are still here at the Emergency Operations Center in the C.A. Smith building. The phone lines are still active. We are getting calls for power outages in some areas. But however, we just want people to be mindful that the power company has already said they will not be going out until the all clear is given. So all of the areas that are without power, they are fully aware of that, and we'll be dealing with that as soon as the all clear is given for the island of Grand Bahama. So as it stands now, we are definitely getting out of the woods of Hurricane Nicole and hoping that by tomorrow morning, everything should be okay, and then the assessment process can begin.
Absolutely. In terms of the phone calls, is the only concerns that residents have or persons calling in is the power outages, or are there other calls?
Yeah, that's the primary one, Rumiko, is power outages. And I did have one call of a lady who was a little bit afraid because she was in a house by herself, but I did make an actual call to her family members in Nassau to just help reassure her. So as we were talking even last night, that's the type of calls that we're also assisting with. We're trying to keep everybody calm and just bring them through this time.
And I'm certain that is getting a bit easier as we're learning that we are getting out of this thing.
Yes. Yes, and then one of the main things too is we want to also say a big thank you to all of the emergency support function groups who have been here at the EOC and riding out the storm with us. It's never an easy task when you have to be away from your family, but we do it because it's not just a job for some of us, it's a passion. So we want to say a big thank you to all of those who would have been at the EOC since we activated day before yesterday.
Tammy, we've seen an island closure in terms of folks moving around and making sure that we're not out and about and creating havoc. Is it fair enough to say that finally we have all listened to the warnings?
Yes, Ricardo, we definitely can say that because that was even another big plus when we went out just to do some assessments to see that the roads were actually clear and there were hardly any vehicles on the street.
I know you'll also have to contact the folks down there in the industrial area to see how they have fared and get a pretty good assessment from them, and then also the community efforts. I know we haven't said much about our families on the southern side, Vera, Smiths Point, Maida Town, Pindus Point, Louis Yard, those folks in there. Any word from them in that area?
No, we haven't had any emergency calls. We hadn't, but everybody has seemed to have fared well. The one of the chief counselors and the deputy council members from the local townships, for example, Frayette has been here. Frayette Gibson has been here with us for the entire time, as well as Clifton Francis, who have been sitting here in the EOC. But all of the calls have been favorable, and we literally have not really had any direct emergency response call.
Fantastic. It's good to know that our residents did adhere to all of the warnings and we made all the preparatory stuff to go through. What is also pretty good, Tammy, is the fact that ZNS and the various entities have been running PSAs about what you should have in the event of a storm hitting you, making sure you have flashlights with batteries, the whole 9 yards. And those who did not pass the test will know, because right now they're sitting in darkness because they didn't do what they needed to do in securing lanterns and various other things accordingly. And so they'll have to sit and wait until tomorrow once the GB Power entity gets out and see how they can correct them and give them electricity. But for the most part, the island fared well, and I know you guys over there are still continually getting phone calls, and you will get them throughout much of the night. Trust me on that one.
Yeah. So that's why we intend to remain here until we have the stand-down order, and that's when we actually get to go home. But it is definitely a message that we want to continue to spread to people. Preparedness is definitely the key word, not just for hurricanes, but for any disaster.
Good. All those meetings that you were attending have now paid off. I go back to the extent that every Monday, all the meetings you wanted to have with the administrator and everything else. So it really shows that we here in Grand Bahama and indeed in all the Bahamas take this time of year very seriously. Very seriously. And we do not play with that. And so the meetings have all worked well, and that's why it's been a very smooth transition for you guys over there this year, and job well done.
Yes, definitely. The meetings will continue. We will take our usual holiday break, God willing, for the Christmas. And then right back in February, we begin again with our regular monthly meetings, which will be the last Monday of every month at 4 p.m.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us here tonight, Tammy. We'll check back in with you, I guess, in the morning after you guys go ahead and do your assessments.
Yes. All right. You guys have a good evening.
Have a good evening, Tammy.
And also, kudos to the entire team over there at the EOC who was there from, I don't know, probably mobilized from Sunday, maybe.
Some of them were putting things in place early enough, and because of the setup, they wanted to make sure they had everything in place, and so they were there earlier getting it done. And then when the activation was on Monday, the intent was to make sure that all the necessary persons were there in order to ensure that they have a smooth transition. Having them in one area makes it very, very easy. Okay, and to go from there. And I think because of the scare that was given in the Dorian scenario is why they moved over to the C.A. Smith building, which is a bit opened in that area, and they can do much more in that area in there. But that's what planning is about. And so the planning aspect has worked very well for them, and so we have been able to see that today. And even with tourism and all the other entities that's there, there's make sure that all of the townships with the local government practitioners, everyone's in place so everybody can get information to those. And then too, you have your foot soldiers.
Yeah.
There are those guys who are on the ground in those different communities, and you can communicate with them and you make things happen.
And listen, you know, I had the opportunity of witnessing firsthand what it is like being in the heart of the EOC during Dorian, as they was on the second floor during Dorian, and then they had to move up to the third floor as the building began to take on water. And honestly, you cannot imagine, you can't put into words the kind of pressure that they are under in these situations. You're getting calls, you're inundated with calls every second, especially during Dorian. And I sat there and I watched them handle themselves with such professionalism. The kind of calls that they were getting would cause anybody to just lose it. But they were there and they handled themselves with such professionalism, and I sat back there and just completely in awe.
It was a very tense and intense scenario, and you know, sitting in here now, it's dry.
Yeah.
Okay. It's dry. You know, we were here in Dorian. We had almost 5 to 6 inches of water in this place because, again, of the compromised winds and stuff that we had to deal with. And, you know, it's only a tropical storm this time. Right. But who knows what will be coming forth in the future. And so now that we've gone through this exercise, this is now one that's going to be put in the catalog, and so you can now move from this point to the next phase. And so come next year, as we continually see these activities, we'll be okay.
Absolutely. And we talk about Christmas, but we can't forget Thanksgiving is coming up, and I'm looking forward to all of the plates that will be coming this Thanksgiving. One in particular that I'm waiting on. If she's watching, she knows who that is. But Thanksgiving is coming up, as you know, a lot of persons, especially in Grand Bahama, look forward to this time as well.
The 24th of November.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a big day. That's Simeon, Zach Smith. That's our day. We're going to be making sure we celebrate as well.
You're saying that's your birthday?
Absolutely. It's the best day of the year. What? Best day of the year, bro.
Absolutely. Well, today we had the opportunity to go into the Southern District. I went there earlier this morning, and just to talk to a few of the residents and find out how they were preparing for this storm. And it was interesting enough to see some persons that were still battening up their homes, and some persons saying that they're evacuating, and some persons say that they're not. But we had the opportunity to go there earlier today just to give kind of get an idea of what the weather conditions was like earlier today, and we're going to go to that report. We are currently in the Southern District of Freeport, and to be more specific, the Pindus Point area, just to kind of give you an idea of what the weather condition is like at this present moment. It is about 8 o'clock in the morning, and we came out just to get a sense of what the weather conditions is like in the Pindus Point area. But right now, we can see that the winds are beginning to pick up and the weather conditions are beginning to deteriorate. But right now, I can tell you that on the shoreline, that the water levels are beginning to rise, and so that may be a concern for residents generally in the Pindus Point area.
That's the problem over there with the storm create last time, right? And that's what it looked like when it done damage. So we had 3 houses over there, and all get smashed up by the wave and the rocks, and all them come across the road last year. Damage it all up just like that.
Well, this one is not very sound. Like, this one is not a very seriously one. Like a Hurricane Wilma, well, I went through that. And Hurricane Wilma, we watched the water was coming, my brother and I, but we didn't know we had to leave from the back of here. So we just stayed out here, but as the water keep coming and coming, after it gets so high, we went in, my 2 children and my husband, we went in the manhole. But after the water keep coming so high, so we had to run for shelter. So, but this storm here sounds like this not going to be a very serious one. But I just wanted to bottle off my 2 windows in the front because the windows are very thin. So I said, let me just bottle those 2 out.
I'm here with Gabby Grant, another resident of the Pindus Point area, who has faced many storms in this area before. Tell us, what is the fear and concerns anytime the hurricane season approaches for residents in this area?
The main concern is usually just property damage, because
you know, when things start to get a little extreme, we all kind of leave. So it's really just property damage, you know. A lot of people out here, this is their one and only home. You know, you could always go to family and stuff, but at the end of the day, you know, when you leave your home to come back to see it damaged or sometimes even gone, you know, it's just stressful.
But that's not a concern this time around for this particular storm?
No, it's not a big concern. I mean, you know, it's windy, so maybe your roof might, you know, kind of get messed up, but that's a simple fix, so yeah.
Why did you decide to stay?
We're actually not staying, but we haven't left yet because, you know, there's still last minute things to do. My family has a restaurant, so we're trying to stay open, you know, as long as possible, you know, to make, you know, a few more extra dollars just in case we'd have to go ahead and fix things due to the storm and the wind and stuff.
That is the current conditions in the Independence Point area as of 8 o'clock this morning. And so we will continue to pay close attention to what this storm does. For the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, I'm Ramiko Knowles. Well, the Airport Authority releasing a statement tonight confirming that the Emergency Operations Center established communications with the impacted Family Island airports, requesting a status update in reference to subtropical storm Nicole. A report was provided on the respective islands. Now, the South Bimini Airport is experiencing light rain with moderate winds, and electricity has been restored. The Grand Bahama Airport has about 2 to 3 feet of water on the airside and presently experiencing heavy rains with hurricane-force winds. Electricity has not been interrupted. However, the runway lights have been turned off to avoid damage. The Sandy Port Airport is experiencing light wind and rain. All roads are clear of debris and there was minor flooding, but the water has receded. Electricity has not been interrupted. And lastly, the Marsh Harbor Airport is clear of debris. However, the apron has standing water and there is no electricity at this time. Once the all clear is given, an assessment team will travel to Marsh Harbor tomorrow at 7 a.m. The following airports are scheduled for reopening for Thursday, November 10th at 8 a.m. That is Rock Sound International Airport, North Eleuthera International Airport, Governor's Harbor International Airport, San Andreas Airport, and Great Harbor Key. The statement concludes that all the other airports managed by the Airport Authority will remain open for normal operating hours.
Interesting.
Definitely interesting.
We had in regards to the airport here, that airport is known for flooding.
Absolutely.
And so we know that we're going to have to wait a while in order for that to happen, especially around the apron areas where the international flights come in and out. That's a lake in there, and even some of the other areas, even towards the Western Air area. So much of that has to be looked into, and again, hopefully the water will drain quickly enough so that we can get operations. But we know that Bahamasair and many other airlines aren't coming in here in any event until after that particular aspect is actually reviewed and make sure that it is safe for them to travel, because there will be gusts. Accordingly, which will follow the storm even into tomorrow. Which may impact some of the flights. Impact the flights is a very dangerous situation for aircraft landing and taking off from the Grand Bahama International Airport.
So at this point, it's just a wait and see, and especially after the assessments will be done tomorrow.
Right. Absolutely. And I think what a lot of folks have found is that, you know, we want to get back quickly. But you can't get back quickly if you want to get back safely. And so let's make sure that that is understood and that all the necessary precautions are taken before a decision is made in that regards, and then we can go from there. We don't have to go anywhere right now. No hurry to go nowhere. Okay, let's take our time, and we'll go from there. We have adequate medical supplies. Everything is on the island. Everybody is in place. Let's just wait until we get everything done in an efficient manner.
Absolutely, and when we spoke to PD yesterday, we know that the gas stations, he mentioned that they're not opening. I don't think that they'll be opening tomorrow. I think he said Friday. Friday they would be opening, and so we'll get a confirmation on that for the residents tomorrow. But right now, the Ministry of Tourism today confirmed that while hundreds of tourists are on the island occupying several hotels on Grand Bahama, and while Hurricane Nicole has landed on Grand Bahama, the ministry's main focus is ensuring that those visitors are well equipped to ride out the storm. Simone Davis has this report.
Remiko, while confirming that there are nearly 600 tourists in 9 hotels across Grand Bahama, we spoke to tourism officials who say that the ministry's main concern during this hurricane is to ensure that those visitors are comfortable and safe.
Priority number 1 is to ensure that the safety of our guests at the various properties here on Grand Bahama. So that's job number 1. We want to ensure those guests who are staying comfortable.
Chowda Singh says hotels have made provisions to properly accommodate tourists through this storm.
The various hotels right now, today, we have over 560 guests on island spread out over 9 hotels. That does not include those persons who may be staying in condominiums or an Airbnb situation. But nonetheless, we've had no reports of any emergencies overnight.
The tourism manager added that the most important thing at this time is that those visitors are safe and will be able to continue enjoying their time in the Bahamas once the storm passes.
And they're being encouraged to stay in their rooms at the properties. The hotels are providing food and, of course, refreshments for them. And so they'll just ride out the rest of the storm with us. Thankfully, it will be just a Category 1 at this time, and hopefully remains that way. And we just want them to be safe and enjoy their time here, even though it's a hurricane on the way.
We will continue to bring you live updates on Hurricane Nicole throughout the remainder of this live broadcast. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Simone Davis. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks so much, Simone. And we also have an update from Bahamasair, I believe, if we can get that. Bahamasair wishes to advise the public of further adjustments to their flight schedule due to the impact of Tropical Storm Nicole. On Thursday, November 10th, flights to the following destinations will be canceled: domestic, Abaco and Grand Bahama; international, Orlando and West Palm Beach. Managing Director Tracy Cooper says that although we expect flights to return to normal on Friday, November 11th, 2022, this is premised on the various authorities on the opening of the airports. Bahamasair will keep the public informed if additional adjustments are necessary, but persons affected by the schedule change and wish to travel to different times are asked to contact Reservations Department at 702-4140. All changes and penalties will be waived. That is an update from Bahamasair, and the management and staff wishes everyone to remain safe during the passing of this storm as we continue to get out of this thing.
Yeah, and I think it's a very good gesture, especially with traveling at this particular junction. You never know what is going to happen. And so Bahamasair is making it a penalty-free scenario where this is an act of nature. And so we want to make sure that people get to their destinations. Yes, you may be delayed 1 or 2 days of sort, but the whole intention is, one thing I'll tell you, Bahamasair ain't flying and nothing over 20 miles an hour. I love them. They ain't flying and they ain't checking, but until it's safe, then they'll take off. If there's one cloud they're not sure of, they're not going.
I'm with that. It's safe on the ground and in the air.
There you go.
But we have a script here released from the Port Authority, I believe it is. The port is reopening in New Providence, or the port rather, is reopening in New Providence, Andros, and Eleuthera in accordance with the advice from the Department of Meteorology. Members of the public are hereby notified that all ports on the islands of New Providence, Andros, and Eleuthera have been reopened with immediate effect. No announcement on the northern Bahamas ports until the all clear is given. So the island is opening back up rather quickly, and so that's certainly good news.
Right, New Providence, Andros, and Eleuthera, again, not having to endure much in terms of just some rain and some winds. That in turn also impacted some of the roadway in New Providence, and so they can now get back to business. We heard earlier today from the NEMA press conference at 5 that everything in New Providence will be back to normal as of tomorrow. That was announced, and so it gives New Providence the ability to get back into to the way things are going. It's going to be a calculated situation for Grand Bahama and also for Abaco. And so that's going to take some time until tomorrow when the real work begins and finding out exactly where we are, and then we'll be able to go from there. But I'm anticipation sometime mid-afternoon or something, we should be able to have a better understanding as to where we are. I know when the news team moves out tomorrow, they'll also get a chance to see exactly where we are at this point and how we have fared through having the hurricane pass through our way.
Absolutely. Joining us now live in studio via phone is Hilton Cash from the Red Cross, an organization that always stands by and ready to assist when a storm strikes. Mr. Cash, can you tell us about the impact from this storm?
Well, I'm happy to say that the hurricane impacted Grand Bahama in just a light way, I would say. I am happy that we saw no serious injuries or even damages. And of course, we have to do the assessment in the morning, and all of our shelters were well manned. We managed the shelters with the Department of Social Services. All of the shelteries, they were well behaved, and we had no incidents arising out of those shelters.
Okay. Can you kind of give us an idea of what role the Red Cross plays in the whenever the country or the island of Grand Bahama comes under a threat when these storms approach us?
Yes, but whenever the island of Grand Bahama is impacted by a hurricane, the Bahamas Red Cross Society, we play two roles. We assist or support the Department of Social Services in the shelter management in all of our shelters throughout the island of Grand Bahama. And we also provide them with volunteers in any other area that may be necessary. That's during and after the hurricane.
Okay, and we also know that prior to storms and throughout the year, the Red Cross assists residents with vouchers and food and helping to keep persons clothed. Tell us about that in that program and how you plan to assist persons after this storm.
Yes, we try to assist to ease some of the burdens that the public may experience after a disaster. And those programs that you mentioned are just some of the programs we offer to assist the community. And of course, we also do the Meals on Wheels, which is a regular program that we run. But we assist to just ease the burden that some of our people may experience. And we're more than happy to do that. We're committed to doing that.
And for those persons that may be needing assistance, how can they go about getting that from the Red Cross?
Well, they can actually visit the Red Cross Center, and someone would be there. That's during weekdays. Someone would be there to assist them.
Is there a number available for persons to contact?
There is a number. Even I can't bring it right up right now, but there is a number. We'll provide it some time.
Okay, we'll get that number a little bit later.
Yes.
Good stuff. The Red Cross also serves as a safety net for many of our residents in terms of providing them with assistance in more ways than one. In many cases, we'll find that the Red Cross in disaster zone areas around the world are responders as well. Do you guys take that same kind of role here in the Bahamas?
Yes, we play that kind of role as well because, of course, you know, the Red Cross is also an international organization. And additionally, too, the Red Cross also offer first aid training to members of the public as well. And we train all of our volunteers in first aid to bring that additional service to the public.
Fantastic. I know especially now in the event of these kinds of emergencies, having that first aid attendance is important. We saw in Abaco with shelters over there manned by Red Cross personnel in the event of an emergency. And so you are fulfilling your role as a responder in the event of these kind of events. And I believe this was a test for you today and will continue into the future.
Yes. Our pleasure.
All right, thank you so much for joining us tonight. That was Hilton Cash from the Red Cross organization. We didn't talk about the hospital. We know that is an essential area during storms. We want to make sure that they are functioning and operating. We do know that there has been some reports of outages, but we do know that the hospital has been, we didn't receive any reports from the hospital during Dorian. It was just...
That's prioritized.
Yeah, it was just a horrific scene at the hospital with the water and flooding, but nothing happened like that this time around.
No, I think what has also happened is that the upgrade to the Grand Bahama Hospital has also been one that has assisted very well. The implementation of their new water systems and also backup generators, everything else that they have. Grand Bahama Power Company has made sure that they will remain online. That and also the Foster V. Pastina Center, which is a special unit shelter that they'll always have electricity, and that's important. The notices came out about two days ago as to the Grand Bahama Hospital operation hours, and only emergencies would have been dealt with, and then there should not be no emergency because we shouldn't be out there in any event.
Right.
We shouldn't be on the road. We shouldn't be doing anything other than staying at home. So there's only the emergency department, and so no visiting hours. There are rotationary measures in place for the nurses and the staff to make sure that those patients that are in the hospital at this time are given the full gambit of quality care. And so there is no issues with that. And so the administrators of the hospital here on the island, and also those that are working behind the scenes in the supplementary areas as far as the food services and all that, have been taking care of even the transportation of doctors and nurses.
Yeah.
So they have their vehicles to do what they need to do so that our people won't have to be on the road traversing in a dangerous manner. So they've made all the necessary precautions for that. I think that is done well. The clinic in the Igmarog district was used also as a housing area as far as the EOC. And so that's done very well. The West End, the clinic, again, that was just, you will be open tomorrow, I would imagine,
right,
in some other areas. And so medical services have done very well. And the private clinics on the island are all closed.
Right.
Okay, and so they will not open up until the all clear is given, and then folks can get back to the obtaining of medicines and various other things that they may need. Absolutely. At that point. That is why they were told in the PSAs and said over and over again, at least ensure that you have at least 5 days or more of medications until we are able to get back open and be able to facilitate your prescriptions of sort.
Absolutely, and I do believe we have one of the latest release from the Public Hospitals Authority on the Rand Memorial Hospital Department, and that release reads that only emergency cases are encouraged to utilize the emergency department at the Rand Memorial Hospital. A medical emergency is an acute injury or illness that poses an immediate risk to person's life or long-term health, sometimes referred to as a situation risk, a life or limb. Medical emergencies include bleeding that will not stop breathing, problems, difficulty breathing, shortness of breath, change in mental status such as unusual behavior, confusion, difficulty arousing, chest pain, choking, coughing up or vomiting of blood, fainting or loss of consciousness, feeling or vomiting or spine injury rather, severe or persistent vomiting, sudden injury due to a motor vehicle accident, burns or smoke inhalation, near drowning, deep or large wound or other injuries, sudden severe pain anywhere in the body, sudden dizziness, weakness or change in vision, swallowing of poisonous substance or severe abdominal pain or pressure. And if you are unsure whether you require emergency medical assistance, you can call 919 or the emergency response team at 350-6763.
Right, so there you have it again, only emergencies that's being sought at this point. And again, that is for one, the protection of the integrity of the emergency area. And again, even though we are slowly coming out of the COVID protocols, we still have to keep that in mind. And so they just want to make sure that the operations are going to be moving smoothly, and the residents are asked again to call if there is a crisis to make sure you can get that information that you need.
Absolutely. Well, we heard from the meteorologist just a few moments ago, giving us an update on where the storm is headed and what it is doing at this moment. And it seems as though things are quieting down over the island just a bit. Our residents are reporting that they're fine. We did have some reports of outages in certain areas, and we do know that the officials from the Grand Bahama Power Company stated that they will not go out until tomorrow morning, and so those persons will have to remain without power tonight. As far as the Grand Bahama Utility Company is concerned, they have turned off the reverse osmosis system, which means some persons will experience a low pressure throughout tonight, but that is expected to get better as time progresses tomorrow, and officials do their assessments, and we return to some sense of normalcy.
Right. I think very little pressure is better than no water, period, at all. Okay, and so reality is you could deal with the fact that there is very little, the pressure has come down somewhat, but there is still availability of water. And so that speaks well for this system, and the fact that we do have water, and potable water is essential for health concerns at this point. And so that'll work out, and then they'll get the plant and everything else sorted out earlier. And then also tomorrow, once the teams do come out, they can actually go into the system, and if there is a real shortage in some area, they can switch and send water to those areas back and forth, so they have that availability to do so. And so that's going to be working, but they have water. Then too, many of the residents have also taken full advantage of the rotary water supply and the various other water depots that have gone out and collected water. And what people have also done is, we know the drill, that you fill up buckets and containers before the storm arrives. So people will have some water available, but still have it through the faucets for toilets and that kind of stuff. It does work very well. But again, the drills that we have endured over the years have paid well. Some people got them 50-gallon barrels outside, so it's just a matter of just using water to do what you have to do.
I never understood why growing up, my mother kept a bunch of empty water bottles underneath the sink, and every time she got an opportunity, she would just fill it and put it underneath the sink until I went through storms.
Right.
And so I kind of understand, and I find myself doing the same thing now.
Well, that's a growing up scenario, okay? And we all have had to get mad because of it. But, Mommy, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Okay. Just do like I say. I know, but they now, as you are an adult, you now know why they wanted you to do these things. And so the practice of doing that, and we've seen it countrywide, that many folks are doing it, and that's a very, very important exercise to have. Keep them bottles underneath the sink, and when you need them, fill them up, and always have them available, because you never know when you were going to have a breakdown of situation.
Absolutely. Now, we had the opportunity to speak to one of the psychiatrists yesterday, I think Dr. Pamela Mills, who talked about what you can do when these storms come, and, you know, for these persons who are experiencing and who are without power at this moment. And she mentioned some nice things that they can do with their families. She mentioned board games. She mentioned for those persons, I guess, who would have flashlights, reading books, and spending time with your family. These are the positive things, I think, that you could look at, that the opportunities that these storms provide whenever we do come under these threats, that the things that we often neglect sometimes, it brings it more into perspective when we go through these storms. And family is one of the things that you can get so busy in the day working, taking care of, providing, taking care of the essential needs, that you forget and neglect time with your kids, time with maybe your wife, or time with your family. And so you have the opportunity to do that whenever these storms come.
And it's also a part of the exercise that we have to endure. I mean, we've done it countless times here, from the pandemic lockdowns to Dorian, to where we are today in terms of what has happened with this hurricane. It's just given us an opportunity to sit back and laugh and think as to how we can best make things happen. The most detrimental part is the little ones, the preschoolers and the little ones, the primary school students. That's where you have to draw the line. The high school students are a bit better off because they're in their own world. Right. Okay, they're doing what they want to do and go from there. But the little ones who become restless who wants attention and don't want to do what's necessary. So you have to now devise ways to occupy them. And then now what's also going to be very difficult to come tomorrow, Mariko, is the fact that tomorrow morning they're going to want to get outside.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's another task for you parents, that you're going to have to now monitor your children tomorrow, because they're going to want to get outside. You do not know what debris or anything that's in the yard out there, but you want to inspect your property, make sure that your area is clear, and you remove the debris before you let your little people go outside and begin to play. Kids got to play. They got to run, all right, and they want to do some things. And so do be careful tomorrow. And again, encourage them to do the little things to occupy their time efficiently until they get back into their classrooms and back into their regular routines accordingly. And the same thing applies in the Abacos especially.
Absolutely. And tonight we want to remind you of the emergency operating numbers for the island of Grand Bahama. They are 351-4902, 351-4903, 351-4904. For the island of Abaco, you can call 827-3093, and Bimini, you can dial 456-2644 or 472-8035.
And no call is minuscule. Every call is important. If you need to reach out to someone, those are the numbers. All right, do not sit there and take on the world by yourself. Absolutely. All right, call and speak to somebody, and thereby they can assist and get somebody to assist you and get you through this difficult period.
You know, we spoke to Tommy yesterday, who mentioned that she was getting calls from persons asking if this thing is actually happening. Are we really under a hurricane watch, under hurricane threat? And, you know, no call is minuscule, like you mentioned. You know, those calls are important. You want those persons to be informed as well.
We want them all to be informed. And see, what also happens is a lot of people will actually throw a deaf ear to disaster. They don't want to be bothered, and so they tone out everything. But then when all of a sudden there's no phone calls, the weather is bad outside, they can't do what they need to, then they become a bit panicky about how this is going to work. And so those are the calls that you will have to deal with. That's why the EOC does have individuals that are actually skilled in handling those kind of situations and can use as a referral for these individuals, because as you know, Pamela Mills said, there are some stress-ridden scenarios that do occur in these situations. And now that we're into the nightfall and everything else, you know, you get into depressed states. You don't want that to happen at this point.
Absolutely. So once again, those numbers are for the Emergency Operations Center here in Grand Bahama, 351-4902, 351-4903, 351-4904. And for the island of Abaco, you can call 827-3093. And for Bimini, you can dial 456-2644 or 472-8035. Now, until the all clear is given, Jason Aubrey, who is the Director of Hurricanes Rescue and Search at Basra, assures that the association has taken the necessary steps to prepare for the worst. Let's check it out.
So we usually have all of our assets well maintained for disasters or even search and rescue prior to storms, people being stuck out to sea or lost. So we pretty much have been prepared. So right now we have our assets all in place, team members in place, along with working with the police force, defense force, and fire department.
Until the all clear is given, rough seas are still expected. He gives this advice to other boaters who may attempt to carry out rescue efforts during the storm.
Right now, definitely stay in port. A little too late to be moving assets around now. Your boats, try to secure them where they are in place and just hope for the best.
We're going to take a quick break. We know that it's coming up on the 11 o'clock hour, and we're going to take a quick break and wrap up when we come back. We want to say that for those of you that were tuning in with us throughout our entire 3-hour broadcast, and we do see your comments. We have a lot of persons who are very thankful for Ricardo joining us here on the show as well tonight, and a lot of persons who are just appreciative of the information that we were able to give. And I take from you, you mentioned that it is a service, and And this is something it's a passion, but it's something that you love to do, and keeping people informed.
That's what it is. It's it's a career. And I said to a lot of people, a lot of young people who look at, well, I want a job. No. You need to engage in a career, something you enjoy, that you love, and being able to share that information and being able to give the people of this country the information that they need. And listen, you could sleep good at night.
Absolutely.
Sleep good at night. And that's what it is. And that's all it's been. That's why I've enjoyed it. That's why I make sure I went and go and get my jacket, pull it out of the closet.
I got
World Relays. Hold on. Put this one out the closet. Just for Amico tonight. Don't pull it out the closet so you know that this thing goes deep.
Oh boy, you caught me off guard with that one. I gotta get myself a jacket. Caught me off guard with that one. But again, we want to say thank you to everyone that was tuning in with us as we continue to provide this extended coverage of Nicole here in the north. As we mentioned, we're going to, I think we're coming back in the morning, so be sure to stay tuned for updates that we will continue to provide. We also have more comments coming in. Zedness, you're doing an excellent job. That's kudos to everyone in the back there. In Master Control, all of the reporters here who were out in the thick of the storm, giving us updates as to what's happening out there in certain areas. And so once again, we know that we will be back at it in the morning to provide some updates as to what's happening with the assessments and to get to give you the information as to when the all clear, specifically not just for the officials, but when the all clear is given for everyone and when it is safe for us to go outside for residents. But for now, we want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Ricardo, any final words?
Well, you know, this is the kind of event that tells you whether or not this is the work that you want to be in.
Yeah.
When you have to come and you're here 24/7, you're giving the best you can for the people out there who depend upon you to provide that service, and then you'll find out in your own psyche, is this for me? If it isn't, you'll be the first one out the door. That's why Sean's still here. All right?
That's right.
He knows very well that this is what he loves, and the excitement and being able to move around and be able to disseminate this information that's essential to the citizens of this country. And hey, it goes with you. And
Absolutely.
This is your calling card.
Absolutely.
And
Thank
don't
you
forget
so much.
to get your jacket, okay?
I gotta get my jacket. I definitely will do that. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us here tonight on our extended coverage, as I mentioned, of tracking Nicole here in the north. We do know that we are getting out of the thick of this thing, and so we ask everyone to continue to remain safe and stay indoors until we get that final all clear for residents and everyone to go back to business as usual. And we expect that to come sometime tomorrow, or if not tomorrow, then Friday perhaps.
Right.
And so we patiently wait on that, and we will check in with the relevant agencies and stakeholders in the morning and provide those updates for you as well. But for now, that's going to do it for us here in the north. And like I said, thank you to the entire team, to our Senior Deputy Manager, Allison Smith, Shoshana Rowe-Parkinson, and Natalie Martinborough, who are behind the controls tonight, also the production team, and to all the reporters. And thank you so much for the wonderful job that you guys are doing. And we will be back here tomorrow, so stay tuned. And once again, good night and remain safe, everyone. I'm Amico Knowles, and thank you so much for watching.
You're watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station.
ZNS News is linked up by BTC. Whether it's chatting, gaming, content creating, or working smart to get things done, link up to stay connected with BTC.
Grand Bahama bears the brunt of now Hurricane Nicole. Good night, everyone. I'm Akush Lapinder, and this is the Bahamas Tonight, 11 p.m. live. Thanks for tuning in. Our live coverage of Hurricane Nicole continues at this hour as the system holds true to predictions on its way to Florida. Evacuations, power outages, impassable roads, and flight cancellations, all the results of her impact on the Bahamas. For the past 2 days, we have been providing you with team coverage of the northern Bahamas, and tonight, our Simone Davis leads us off.
Tropical storm Nicole is currently striking Grand Bahama, bringing heavy rains, dangerous winds, and we were even told to brace for possible tornadic activity. I'm standing here now outside the Harold de Gregory building on East Mall Drive, and it seems as though the weather is deteriorating by the second. But we know that all hands are on deck, as we learned at the EOC meeting today, where agencies and departments like Social Services, the police, the Defense Force, the Ministry of Tourism, BASRA, the Ministry for Grand Bahama, Ministry for Works, and many more were working hand in hand to ensure that all bases are covered. Now, as many residents were told several times today to stay indoors and find the nearest shelter, we spoke to a tourism official who confirmed that there are nearly 600 tourists on Grand Bahama, spread across 9 hotels on the island. And the ministry's main focus now is ensuring that those visitors are properly accommodated and safe throughout this storm. We also spoke to BASRA officials who confirmed that they are armed and ready in case the need arises for a search and rescue team. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Simone Davis. We're now going over to our Aja Quant on the Fishing Hole Road, who's going to give us an update on conditions in that area.
Aja? At the Fishing Hole Road in Grand Bahama, and as you can see, it is flooded. Anyone wanting to pass through cannot at this time, especially if you are coming out of West Grand Bahama. Now the conditions have worsened. I mean, it is getting worse by the hour. As you can see, the winds are picking up. Now, earlier today, we would have went to 8 Mile Rock, and it was a bit on the quiet end. However, now it is definitely getting worse. West End was already flooding while we were there. Now, earlier today, Met officials would have noted that tomorrow at 4 p.m. would have been the all clear. However, at this moment, I don't think that is going to happen, but we will just have to see. Reporting live here at the Fishing Hole Road in Grand Bahama, we are about to get out of this storm, but we're going to throw it over to the nation's capital, Makushla. We're here.
Well, thanks, Asha. Certainly be safe. Still on the ground for us in Abaco, which we understand fared well overall, is our Desmond Saunders. Tonight speaks to the disruption of essential services impacting that island's tourism.
Well, the system is producing heavy winds and heavy rains, and Nicole continues to pound Abaco. Nicole pounded Abaco on Tuesday. The dangerous cyclone barreled towards Abaco with wind gusts of up to 75 miles per hour.
People are apprehensive. There's this feeling of anxiety that this is only 3.5 years and we're faced with another storm.
Authorities made last-minute pleas for those in low-lying areas.
We would have sent out notices throughout the community advising persons of the hurricane shelters where they're located and the capacity. We also would have ensured that the ferry services would have suspended their service.
Over 600 residents hunkered down in schools, churches, and other emergency shelters. Raging sea gusts and large swells made this Bay Street and main ferry hub impassable.
It is a little bit nerve-wracking, just to say the least, because all of this obviously looks a bit scary.
Nicole producing rainfall amounts of up to 5 inches. These viral videos and pictures showing Nicole's fury. Foxtown, Hopetown, Marsh Harbor, Memorial Plaza, Little Harbor impacted by dangerous swells with rising waters moving inland. Gary Greenslade, security manager at the Abaco Beach Resort, caught in the dangerous storm.
We've been experiencing, obviously, a lot of wind, rain, sporadic rain over the course of the night, last night, but now we see today it has increased. But it's, we've been prepared here at Abaco Beach Resort.
Well, BPL teams are working furiously to restore power to affected areas. A high-level delegation will be on the ground tomorrow morning to conduct assessments. And for more on Abaco, here's Antoinette Smith.
As the wind speed increases and the weather picks up, it's a scene all too familiar for residents on Abaco.
Docks are covered, little small rocks in front of keys are covered. The wind, the shipwreck, the boats, you would find that sails and everything that is loose are being torn apart.
The force of Nicole, strong, even as the system looms some 25 miles east of the Northern Islands at the Met's 12 p.m. report. Rain combined with king tides resulting in severe floods, impacting the fishing villages of Blackwood, Little Abaco, and Green Turtle Key, where residents told us as the waters rose, there was only time to act.
Downtown Green Turtle Key, we would say 45% of it is underwater in the low areas. As you come into the very dark area, they are underwater, some places of 4.5 feet. We had to actually move. We only had enough time, and that was like around 8 a.m. We only had enough time to get out of our home and up to higher grounds because our house is flooded. So downtown is basically flooded already.
It's a mad dash to safety, which immediately transports residents back to 2019, when supercharged Hurricane Dorian stalled over and continued its assault on the island for hours on end.
It's overwhelming. It feels like we're going back through the same thing. It still brings that trauma or makes your mind, unsettled or uneasy because you don't know when it's going to escalate or deteriorate or get even worse. You're just praying that it remains tropical storm or Category 1.
And even now, residents continue to brace, comforted only by the fact that this time around, they're standing on guard, better prepared.
The thing I can say is I feel as if Abaco people didn't let their guards down. Even though they heard it was going to be a tropical storm, they prepared greatly for whatever was to come.
For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Anthony Smith.
The Bahamas Tonight, live at 11, returns after this.
This portion of the news was brought to you by Sun Oil Limited Shell, fueling journeys that matter.
Comfort Suites Paradise Island is the best-kept secret in the Bahamas. Located directly next door to the Atlantis Resort, you'll receive all the privileges of an Atlantis guest with all the benefits of a Comfort Suite stay. Enjoy everything Atlantis has to offer, including Aquaventure Water Park, plus all the amenities of Comfort Suites. Free Wi-Fi, free breakfast daily, and kids stay, play, and eat free. Visit ComfortSuitesPI.com.
Well, as you just heard, Grand Bahama now under the gun as Hurricane Nicole hurtles at Florida. Lloyd Allen has the latest.
From the National Emergency Management Agency, Tropical Storm Nicole Advisory 11, marking it at 70 miles per hour, now approaching East Grand Bahama on a westward track at 13 miles per hour. With a projected forecast into Florida coast, an intensification is expected over the next few hours. Now, NEMA officials updating during the 5 p.m. briefing, winds intensifying with no loss of life reported. Acting Prime Minister, the Honorable Chester Cooper, presented during that session.
I want to thank all of the Bahamian people and residents who have heeded the warnings of NEMA. We ask you to continue to monitor the warnings.
With more, we hear from the Honorable Miles LaRota, Minister responsible for the DRA.
Grand Bahama is in the line for direct hit. Abaco, mainly some of the most sustained winds were in the north and central. Grand Bahama is almost on a lateral line, so from Sweetingski straight to West End, we expect the hurricane to impact the whole island of Grand Bahama.
Jeffrey Green from the Met Office also provided these details.
Hurricane warning remains in effect for the Berry Islands, Abaco, and Grand Bahama.
Abaco, Berry Islands,
Tropical storm warnings are in effect for Bimini.
Bimini, toujours.
Tropical storm warnings for New Providence, Eleuthera, and Andros has been discontinued.
Chester Cooper and other government officials expected to visit Abaco and Grand Bahama by Thursday. Reporting from NEMA for the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Lloyd Allen.
Meantime, while the extent of damage is still uncertain, one thing has been determined. So far, there are no injuries and no deaths, and this may very well be attributed to the fact that as shelters were activated, hundreds sought shelter. Carla Palmer tells us more.
Those islands impacted by Tropical Storm Nicole, hundreds, according to authorities, accessed the hurricane shelters. Director of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Captain Stephen Russell, says a total of 528 residents heeded the warning and sought safer space.
We know that some 27 shelters were activated.
Central Grand Bahama, Christ the King Special Needs Shelter, 11 persons.
That's Chief Welfare Officer with the Department of Social Services, Andrea Newbold, as she provided a breakdown on the number of residents occupying each shelter throughout the affected islands. Of all 27 shelters made available, Central Abaco Primary was most utilized by some 250 residents, while Church of God in West Grand Bahama was used the least, with just one person seeking safe haven.
Friendship Tabernacle Central Abaco Primary has reached its capacity. Therefore, Patrick J. Bethel High School in Murphytown was activated.
As predicted by meteorologists, storm surge rose 3 to 5 feet higher above normal levels, resulting in flooding in most low-lying areas like Central Andros, where in fact, some residents had to be evacuated, according to local government representative Therese Boodle-Lang.
Eastern Grand Bahama weather conditions remain moderate, the same with sparsely light showers in various areas and increasing gusts of wind. Residents had to be evacuated, additional residents out of Eastern Grand Bahama.
While power outages may have been experienced as a direct impact of the storm, in some cases, Director of Field Operations at Bahamas Power and Light, Sterling Moss, says cutting power was intentional.
As conditions deteriorated, consistent with our control shutdown strategy, these areas were shut down. These areas will remain offline until the storm passes.
Back here in New Providence, the coastal shorelines of western New Providence took a beating, with rough waves overtaking the seaboard and spilling into the street and forcing road closures.
On Goslow Bend, there was at least 8 to 10 inches of standing water.
Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister, with responsibility for disaster risk reduction, the Honorable Miles LaRoda, on reports by local weather experts, anticipate the system leaving the Bahamas by late Wednesday evening.
Right now, our thoughts and prayers are with those residents of Grand Bahama and Abaco.
Grand Bahama, Abaco.
We pray that Almighty God protect them.
By your guidance and protect them.
For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Carla Palmer.
Meantime, Senior Nursing Officer at the Ministry of Health, Antoinette Cumberbatch, says healthcare teams have visited vulnerable populations on both Grand Bahama and Abaco to ensure they have the necessary medication.
Our vulnerable population, inclusive of our clients with NCDs, those with disabilities, mental health challenges, our elderlies, children, and our lower socio-economic groupings, and those residing in low-lying areas and on the coastal areas have been advised.
Tout le monde qui grand monde ou pas capable marcher avec disability, ils viennent parler avec eux and by medication.
Those persons have been advised to seek safe haven in our available shelters or relatives in secured areas.
Sou grand monde, sou pas capable, sou pas capable marcher, sou gen disability, eu besoin aller dans abri pour cycler là, shelter était là pour.
Our satellite phones and other forms of communications are available. Generators have been refueled and are standby in case of power outages.
Now, Defense Force Commander Sonia Miller says Marines are assisting the emergency operations centers in Abaco and Grand Bahama. They're also conducting roving patrols on those islands.
Defense Force ships remain on hurricane avoidance.
Tout bâtiment pour Defense Force na hurricane avoidance.
HMBS Lawrence Major is a part of this flotilla.
HMBF Lois Major, ça c'est non bâtiment.
She has on board NEMA's dry food and water supply.
Il y a un gros, il y a un manger.
Heavy duty equipment.
Avec equipment.
And a Royal Bahamas Defense Force impact team.
And you get moon. Depuis cyclone get the pass.
This will allow for the HMBS Lawrence Major to proceed directly to an impacted island.
So si Zulia get effect na cyclone, c'est ça la bâtiment ça la venir tout droit.
And this will happen once weather permits. One of our international partners has pledged their support to assist with aerial medical evacuations should the need arise.
Well, high winds, sea surges, rain, and flooding. Now the reality of the intensity and frequency of hurricanes as evidenced in now Hurricane Nicole. And it all has its roots in climate change, a critical issue threatening the very existence of small island developing states. An argument Prime Minister the Honourable Philip Davis continues to push at every turn. Speaking on the sidelines of the high-level COP27 meeting in Egypt, the Prime Minister admonished residents of Abaco and Grand Bahama to take heart.
Remember, right, that the Lord is not going to put on us more than we can bear. I understand the trauma that you're undergoing now, the recall that you would be having after Dorian with this visiting of Nicole. Just please stay safe, adhere to the warnings. I want to thank the acting Prime Minister, Chester Cooper, for his efforts to ensure that the word got out and taking the necessary action that is necessary to ensure that lives are not lost and damage is minimal.
The Prime Minister has been in frequent talks with the Met Office. He's also received pictures from concerned residents, all of which he says breaks his heart. Upon returning home,
first priority is to assess, get an update on what's going on and address the normalization of what has been disrupted by this hurricane.
the passage of tropical storm, or rather Hurricane Nicole, an opportunity for those who defend the environment to remind us that storms will persist in line with the impact of climate change. It's an issue officials from the Bahamas National Trust addressed earlier this afternoon with our Bimini Swain.
They are coming later. The patterns are different. They intensify very rapidly, which is why I think a lot of our friends in the north were very worried and didn't want to stay there, because they had the experience of how climate change Dorian was so unpredictable.
Executive Director of the Bahamas National Trust, Eric Carey, speaking to the reality the Bahamas faces with the impact of climate change, namely weather conditions like Tropical Storm Nicole.
These storms are coming because the planet is warmer, the sea surface is warmer. That's because as a people, we are changing our planet. We change our planet, we negatively impact it, with global warming temperatures, etc. These intense and regular and out-of-character storms, late-season storms, are becoming more of the norm.
And while storms pique the interest of some, Carey subscribes to the well-held view that safety is paramount.
I saw people this morning heading west on West Bay Street, and I had seen earlier videos, and why are these people heading into this? They're going to destroy their cars. And in fact, if you saw one of the videos that was filmed by the plaza by Saunders Beach, real big waves were coming over. A rogue wave could have actually caused some serious damage and personal injury. So people should stay at home. Let the officials from NEMA, from the police, defense force, and let the media share the stories and share the information. These things need to be taken very seriously. I have a colleague who is here with us in Nassau who went through Dorian, and he was trying to figure out should he go back home to prepare yesterday. But he made the decision that he was going to bring his family here because they are traumatized.
For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Jumanita Swain.
Well, the all clear has been given for New Providence, and that means schools here will resume on Thursday. The Ministry of Education indicating in a release that all schools and offices on islands not impacted by the storm will reopen. However, those on Grand Bahama, Abaco, Bimini, and the Berry Islands will remain closed until they are cleared. The public is reminded to check the ministry's social media platforms for updates. Bahamas Oaksfield, the University of the Bahamas, Oaksfield campus also resumes tomorrow, and this includes the Chapter 1 bookstore and the Harry Seymour Library and Information Center. However, UB North in Grand Bahama will remain closed on Thursday. The Bahamas Tonight, live at 11, returns after this.
This is John Pinder, MP for Central and South Abaco. I want to reach out to all Abaconians and make sure that we are mindful of being prepared for this upcoming hurricane season, whether in terms of food resources, water resources, flashlights and batteries, and know where your safe spot is to go to in case of a major storm.
For hurricane coverage, there's only one network, the ZNS Network.
Bahamians living in Florida are bracing themselves for what Hurricane Nicole will bring to that area. Consulate General Kurt Hollingsworth telling ZNS News that so far, no Bahamian residing in the jurisdiction has sought out the consulate for assistance.
We haven't gotten any calls from anyone prior to our office being closed at 1 o'clock this afternoon. We will return to regular service on Friday morning once the passage of the system would have taken place. We certainly anticipate that some Bahamians might reach out to us. We will be prepared to assist where necessary those Bahamians who might be stranded or in need of any assistance. We do have our lines open, emergency lines open, which is published. We'll just wait until Friday before we can release anything as it relates to our diaspora here in the Florida area specifically.
Well, quite a number of Bahamians residing in Atlanta, Georgia, South and North Carolina hunkering down as Hurricane Nicole makes landfall there later tonight, early Thursday morning.
Here in Atlanta, we have advised the Bahamian people in Georgia and the Carolinas about the upcoming impending storm, which continues to develop into a hurricane, about their awareness and their safety. We have also said to them that in the event if there should be lost or misplaced of any documents, that we here in Atlanta will continue to be here to assist them with refurbishing those documents. In addition to that, we continue to pray for their safety, whether they are in Georgia or in the Carolinas. We beg them to kindly pay attention to the news as to the hurricane as it continues to travel and would be coming into our areas.
Well, Mother Nature, an unwelcomed visitor in western New Providence. Our Charles Fisher was up and about in that area earlier today. The details in this report.
We started off here in the area of West Bay Street, mainly in the area of Orange Hill. And as you can see in the back road, it is impossible. Even though some trucks and cars were still trying to get through, some we even saw flooded on the side of the street. High seas and waves, and for sure that meant the seas were behaving very unruly as the waves were making their way onto the road. That resulted in the streets being littered with debris, sand, weed, and rocks. Even with all that debris in the road, motorists were still trying to maneuver their way through. It was not smooth sailing for all, as we noticed this red Jeep stalling out on the road. There were many curious onlookers coming out to see just what was happening. One of those, a longtime resident, Tyrone says.
I was seeing it, man. I live out here all my life, and that's more than 50 years, and never seen it like this. And I think tide is low right now, so when tide gets high, it's going to really be worse.
You came out here just to be a curious onlooker. Some people trying to get through the road, and they can't get through.
Yeah, that's a curious onlooker, because like I said, I live right up the road there, and I trying to see what's coming my way. Because right now, I know I got to go now and make more preparation for this. Because like I say, tide is low, and it's full moon. Anytime you see full moon like this, I know what it's all about. I born and grow it this way.
You talk about the worst you've seen. We've had storms pass through here, and it wasn't like this?
Never like this. One time we had a little flood come by, but never like this. You know, when you see this pass by now, the whole area is going to be brown. That means the salt water that's washed everything away. And this would be the second time I had to redo my whole lawn. So it's really bad.
Why do you think people are not heeding the precaution of persons are not passing away and still going through?
Well, like I see some of them now, they saying they got to get home. So really, if you got to get home, you got to go. So that's like me right now. I got to get back home now.
Andres Acosta Omadi, visiting from Kamalami Key, one of the many persons just observing, and he was actually enjoying the view.
Everybody likes a storm. Lucky isn't too bad, but the waves are it's spectacular here. Today it's good. We're all residents of viewing right now, seeing the debris in the road and the car got stuck.
Some people might say crazy being on your why are you watching this?
We are taking relevant precautions. We're not making it stupid. But it's not too bad.
A lot of motorists have been trying to pass this area this morning. What have you noticed?
I mean, I wouldn't drive along this road. It's a bit too flooded. You know, there's one car is right behind us that's got stuck. There's a lot of debris in the road. I wouldn't drive across this road today. You'd want to stay inland. I don't know how flooded it is inland from the rain. But here it's a bit dangerous.
Up the road at the point of the caves, passing motorists had to watch out for the waves as high as 5 feet in the air. On the other side of the street, at the caves, it appeared as if a new beach was formed. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Charles Fisher.
All over in the south, we found residents embracing the time together as a hurricane, then tropical storm Nicole, kept some away from their work posts and children out of classrooms. For more, we go to LaDawn Davis.
It's business as usual here in South Beach as residents are not only cleaning fish, playing dominoes, but get this, a number of kids were walking the shoreline just to see how far Tropical Storm Nicole has been here in the capital. Now, we spoke to Derek Arena, who says he's praying for the best for residents over in Abaco and Freeport.
Abaco and Freeport, they need to take all the precautions that is necessary for them. You know, we could say all we want to say by being out of harm's way, but these guys who are in harm's way, they need to be cautious and be careful and take all the time they need to be safe and put their stuff, secure all their belongings and so forth like that.
Now, despite the fact that Tropical Storm Nicole will put a beating on Freeport and Abaco, Arena says the Berry Islands will feel very little effects.
Berry Islands is fine, and probably Bimini later on tonight will feel some effects, but other than that, I think it's just overrated. You know, we've had worse stuff happen before here, and, we didn't have any problems. No flooding, no damage, nobody putting up no shutters, so... it's going to be going in a couple hours.
Residents who frequent the area for fun-filled activities and to enjoy the natural breeze say they're happy to escape the wrath of yet another dangerous storm and remain hopeful that it stays that way until the end of the hurricane season. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm LaDawn Davis.
There's more to come when the Bahamas Tonight live at 11 continues.
One network.
This used to be the waiting terminal for the airport.
it's now gone.
We have the most experienced team covering hurricane.
But when Hurricane Irma makes landfall here in New Providence in a few hours,
We cover the entire Bahamas before, during, and after the storm. One network covers every island rocket. We are the best because we have the best. For hurricane coverage, there's only one network, the ZNS Network.
Officials from the Department of Local Government keeping in close contact with Family Island administrators, particularly those in the path of Nicole, and this particularly considering reports of flooding and other issues in Grand Bahama, Andros, and Abaco. Local government rep Therese Boudeline gave us this update from North Eleuthera.
We were able to receive reports from Administrator Wilson showing a group of visitors who had to take a ferry into Gregory Town, as well as showing the rough condition at the Glass Window Bridge. Also coming out of Abaco, videos provided by Administrator Dames, we were clearly able to see that there are serious and concerning coastal flooding issues in Little Abaco, Blackwood, and Grand Key. Reports from Grand Key indicate increasing winds and power outage. West Grand Bahama Administrator Ricardo Ferguson is also reporting power outage. Additionally, Administrator Roll is also advising of serious coastal flooding issues in central Abaco.
Well, telecommunications an essential tool during a storm, and Alive says all systems are in place to ensure its lines remain up. The company's Chief Information Officer, Dwayne Davis, says up to this afternoon there were no outages. However, once the storm passes, a post-assessment will be conducted. On Abaco and Grand Bahama, all Alive sites are running on generators in the event of a power cut. Furthermore, its backup phones and satellite phones are charged up and ready should the need arises. Alive's command center is 24 hours until the all clear is given. Well, it's time now for a check on Family Island weather, and for that we turn to Chief Meteorologist Basil Dean. Good evening, Basil.
Good evening, Makesha. We're under cloudy skies, temperature at 80 degrees, relative humidity 84%. We have northeast winds at 13 miles per hour, the barometric pressure 1,002.5 millibars, that is 29.65 inches, and the pressure is rising. Temperatures around the Family Violence this evening, they are brought to you by Family Guardian Insurance Company. We're protecting you. It is 85 degrees in Clarence on Long Island, Crooked Island 85, Betsy Bay 83, Acklands 83, Ragged Island 85 degrees, Matthewtown and Agua 82, and the Texan Caicos Islands at 83 degrees. And your boating forecast tonight is brought to you by Builders Mall, home of FYP, the Tile King, and the Paint Setter. In the northwestern islands, so it's going to be northwest at 30 to 40 knots, very rough seas, 7 to 12 feet over the ocean. High tide took place at 8:18 tonight. In the central and southeastern islands, northwesterly winds 20 to 25 knots, wave height 7 to 9 feet. Boaters, we are simply asking you to remain in port until the all clear is given. And then in the northwestern parts of our country tomorrow, the winds become southeast to south at 30 to 40 knots, wave heights remaining at 8 to 10 feet. High tide 8:42 in the morning, low tide at 3:12 in the afternoon. For the central and southeastern islands Thursday, southeasterly winds 15 to 25 knots, wave height 7 to 9 feet. Advisory in place for your boaters on Thursday. And then as we take you into Friday, in the northwest parts of our country, the winds are falling off 15 to 20 knots out of the southeast, wave heights 4 to 7 feet. But we will keep caution flags in place for boaters in the northwestern Bahamas on Friday. The high tide will take place at 9:22 in the morning with the low tide at 3:54 in the afternoon. Now for the central Bahamas on Friday, southerly winds 10 to 15 knots, wave heights 2 to 4 feet, and in the southeast Bahamas, southeast winds 10 to 15 and the wave heights 2 to 4 feet. That's going to do it for your boating forecast. It's time now for your international temperatures, and they are brought to you by Royal Star Assurance. Do it for your international temperatures, brought to you by Royal Star Assurance. But stay tuned, your extended weather forecast is still ahead.
Hey, y'all, what's up?
Hey, what's that?
What y'all getting?
Listen, I've been waiting to march down some lobster, yeah?
Hi, I'm Matthew. I will be you guys waiter today. Can I take your order?
Oh, I've been jonesing for some grouper dread.
Y'all see this?
See, this ain't gonna work.
Where the fish gone, though?
But how, though?
Don't leave our children with no fish in their future. Protect our sea. Protect our way of life. Protect the Bahamas. To learn how you can help, find us on Facebook at Bahamas Protected. See the future.
On a lighter note, if you're a DIY enthusiast looking for a way to improve your at-home construction skills, this next story may be for you. Here's our Amajal Knowles.
CBS Bahamas is doing its part to equip residents with the adequate knowledge they need through their CBS Bahamas Workshop series in conjunction with MGM Construction. The series seeks to help interested individuals sharpen their construction skills while providing necessary tips and safety lessons. The fall edition kicked off October 15th and will run until November 26th.
So what you're seeing is actually the Falls series of our overall CBS Pro Store workshop series, and basically allows us to offer classes to our customers and those around in our community to better enhance their skills, to learn about safety, and just to get more knowledge on areas that they need to.
Gomez, she adds that a notable high turnout of female participants was a welcome sign.
We have a lot of women signing up, and we're very happy about that. We actually plan to expand on that later on in the year, but for a Saturday morning, we have always a good turnout. I mean, when we actually open it up on our social media, it was maxed out in 48 hours. So we expected a good turnout, and we're happy that people are enjoying it and able to come out and actually learn today.
Gomez says that more initiatives such as these are definitely on the horizon.
A big part of the CBS Pro Slot that's on Robinson Road is really big in there to our heart, because we actually started out in Robinson Road in 1973. And so we came back home to this community and we said that we want to offer initiatives that allow our community to participate with us. And so therefore this workshop came about, and as we grow it, we'll expand it to allow more people to come, include more instructors, open up to more sessions and topics, just so that people can have a better overall well-rounded idea of what they want to do. And just for people in the community to have something to do and to learn. It's basically like learning a trade, a skill that they can have forever, and so we're happy to be able to provide that to our community.
For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Amajal Knowles.
A final check on weather when we return.
Did you know that if a fire starts in your home, you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape? Keep your family and home safe with these few fire safety preparation and prevention tips. Ensure that your home has working smoke detectors. They will alert you if there is smoke and fire in your home. Install a smoke detector on every level of your home, inside each bedroom and outside each sleeping area. Test smoke detectors every month and change the batteries every 6 months. Home fires can spread rapidly, and every second counts. Create an escape plan and practice it with everyone in your home. Make sure everyone can safely escape in less than 2 minutes. Keep escape routes as clutter-free as possible so no one trips or falls on the way out during an emergency. In addition to smoke detectors, fire extinguishers is an important device to have on hand. To use a fire extinguisher, remember the acronym PASS. Pull the pin, aim the nozzle, squeeze the handle, and sweep from side to side at the base of the fire. We must all do our parts to ensure that our families and homes are safe in the event a fire occurs. On behalf of the Commissioner of Police, the Director of Fire Services, and all officers of the Fire Department, let's work together to help prevent fires, because fire safety is everyone's responsibility, and the life you save may be your own.
Time now for weather.
In our final look at weather, Nicole now some 20 miles to the east of Freeport, moving towards the west at 12 miles per hour. Maximum steaming has increased to 75 miles per hour, but the good news is we don't anticipate any further intensification of the system as it continues to move west and heading towards the Florida Peninsula. However, we can anticipate that we will continue to have large swells impacting the islands of the northwest Bahamas and the central Bahamas for the next couple of days. So we're asking motorists traversing the coastal streets of the northwest Bahamas over the next few days to exercise extreme caution, particularly during high tide when these waves are more pronounced. And our forecast for tonight calls for mostly cloudy conditions with a couple of showers still looking around. 75 degrees for your low temperature, and tomorrow it's going to be partly sunny, windy, and a bit humid with a couple of showers still in the mix. High temperature tomorrow, 84 degrees, and your extended weather forecast. Things getting a lot better, but we'll have some residual showers on Thursday, particularly during the morning and early afternoon hours. Thereafter, things improving. Friday looking good. We'll have, again, some showers working their way back into our forecast on Saturday and Sunday, but they'll be somewhat of an isolated nature. Makisha.
Well, thanks, Basil. That does it for the Bahamas tonight. Thank you for continuing to make ZNS your first choice for news and information. Only the sun covers the Bahamas better than ZNS. From all of us here at ZNS, thank you for watching, and good night.
On September 9th, 1915, the first set of Bahamian volunteers for the World War I effort set sail from Prince George Dock in a sloop known as the Varuna. They were known as the Gallant 30. They were followed by a second contingent of 105 men in November 1915, and in the following May, by a third contingent of 87 men. Altogether, 486 volunteers officially left the Bahamas to become part of the British West India Regiment. Other Bahamians joined the regular British, Canadian, or American forces, making a grand total of about 700 men. Of those who enlisted in the colony, 6 were killed in action, 3 died from other wounds, and 28 died from other causes. World War I began on July 28, 1914, and ended on November 11, 1918. It started in Europe and led to the involvement of more than 70 million military personnel. More than 20 million people died. 13 million were civilians.
Poland, September 1939. The German foe begins its ruthless march of conquest and sets the stage for World War II.
World War II started on September 1st, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland. It was fought between 2 groups of countries. The Axis powers, which consisted of Germany, Italy, and Japan, and the Allies, France, China, the USA, and the United Kingdom. The Bahamas and other Commonwealth countries fought for the UK. World War II ended in 2 phases. The first phase began after Adolf Hitler committed suicide on April 30th, 1945, followed by Germany's surrender to Britain and the United States on May 8th, 1945, and to Russia on May 9th, 1945. Phase 2 included the bombing of